All right. Okay. There we go.
We up?
We are up. What's going on, y'all?
What's happening, everybody?
Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Face Mask Fantasy. Y'all already know. If you don't, just hit that like button anyway, like you do.
Yeah, we hopefully will get you to the point where you do know, for better or worse, anyway.
Yeah, man. Another week closer to football. We got preseason week 3, and then the calm before the storm. Because it doesn't just jump in. Isn't there like a week in between there where we're not doing anything? Where the fourth preseason game used to be, and now we're drafting, right?
Well, there was always a week break in between the preseason and
was there? Okay, I'm remembering it wrong.
Regardless of the week 4, it's just the preseason started a little earlier before. So no, there's still like a little bit of time in between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season. So we still have some time. It's a great spot for your redraft drafts to take place. I feel like that's what the vast majority of competitive leagues do.
Yeah.
They wait until the preseason is completely over, even though we've seen plenty of situations where that ultimately does not matter, but it is the safest way to know going into your redraft season who's healthy, who's not, and who's got a role to some level, to some extent. And we see that play out in the preseason. So with the last preseason approaching, preseason week approaching, we're starting to see all of these things unfold.
And there is every single year it feels like there is a player that rises to prominence in that last week where he's kind of off the radar. You might have heard rumblings, and then James Conner starting for the Steelers, or James Robinson starting for the Steelers. Phillip Lindsay is a startable running back for the Denver Broncos. It just feels like every year there is a running back that kind of hits the ground running, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, Trey Sermon doesn't look good. Who's this guy Elijah Mitchell?
Right. See, exactly. Yeah. And this year it could be a couple of guys. We've talked a lot about Isaiah Pacheco, but there's a few guys in here like Jalen Warren, who's getting a lot of play right now around fantasy analysts around the world.
Gus Edwards goes
Brian
on
Robinson.
Robinson, we can talk about him. Gus Edwards goes on the PUP list. I mean, it looks like Tyler Batty basically got a promotion for the first month of the season.
Or Mike Davis. Worse, you really don't know.
Or Mike Davis. Could be Mike Davis.
I hate to put a dampener on that, but I mean, even this last week in the preseason, Khalil Herbert got injured and was carted off. And it looked like it was going to be, all right, Treston Ebner is going to be the RB2 for the Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, Khalil Herbert's back practicing.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine.
Right.
Thankfully,
absolutely. But I mean, just look at this Kenneth Walker situation. DJ Dallas has been killing the preseason.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving pieces here, but
Travis Homer looked okay too. I mean, he's less maybe interesting as an older guy, but yeah, I mean, we see it. We see a lot of things unfold on the field, and naturally, you want to have a reaction to it. So we can talk about that today.
Well, where do you want to start, bro?
We can go anywhere. First
and
of all,
Rojo,
what's going
absolutely,
on, guys?
Absolutely, what's going on, Rojo, and what's going on, Iron?
Yeah, we'll schedule that.
Yeah, hit us up on Discord.
Let's start with Let's start with Matt Corral. Who who unfortunately will miss the season.
Liz Frank injury.
I feel like my camera's off, but Liz Frank injury they officially placed him on injured reserve today. His season is over. Not soon after that, not that this was a surprise or that the Corral injury had anything to do with it, but Baker Mayfield was named the starter to the surprise of nobody.
Right.
Sam Darnold will be the backup, and PJ Walker will, in the event of an emergency, not Matt Corral, be the third string quarterback for the Panthers this year. So unfortunate for Corral.
He couldn't even really get his feet underneath him. PJ Walker was starting over him,
right,
playing over him in some of the preseason.
Yeah, Corral was
week
the
1,
fourth
week
guy.
2.
Yep.
And Corral didn't perform very well. He did better week 2 than he did week 1 by a large margin, but it still wasn't stellar by any means, but at least there was some kind of growth. And
he made some throws that weren't they didn't show up in the stat sheet because they weren't caught, but he made some throws. So that was good to see.
At least proved he belonged on the field before the injury. He didn't look completely lost out there, but it is it sucks for him and for any fans of his, for anybody that has him. You just got to stick him on your IR spot, maybe taxi squad if you got that, and just leave him there for a year. Maybe he'll become something next year. And in a corresponding move, Baker Mayfield named week 1 starter, which we all thought was going to be the case anyway.
Yeah. As far as Corral, I think this Panthers team is not going to be very good this year. And that might not be because of Baker Mayfield. It's just the rest of this roster is not super impressive. I'm starting to wonder, if you drafted Corral in a dynasty league, do you just go ahead and try to cut your losses now and see if you can dump him to somebody for a 3rd round pick and just be like, hey, I know he's hurt, developmental prospect, what? Meanwhile, keeping in mind, Carolina very well could be in the quarterback sweepstakes next year.
We've seen if you can, divest yourself of Corral and maybe, a future 3rd and land yourself a Sam Howell who looked a lot better than Corral did in the preseason and also has a route to start week 1 in 2023 with Carson Wentz probably not being long for the Commanders, even though he is their starting quarterback this year. We were kind of thinking the same situation was going to take place or could take place with the Panthers and Corral start in 2023. Now that looks a lot less likely because he's just going to be rehabbing for all of 22. But if you can trade even, Corral and a 2025 3rd for
a 24 second.
I mean, I don't even think you need to do that unless you're shooting for a Malik Willis, in which case, sure. But if you're even just going for a Sam Howell,
sure,
5th round pick, I don't think you need to pay a future second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's going to be buying Corral outright, but a swap like that makes sense. Just to solidify your quarterback room moving into 2023, not even for 2022.
Just something to think about. But obviously, Corral's 2022, unfortunately, over before it starts. So just something to think about if you play Dynasty. Sad J, what's going on?
What's going on, Sad J?
He thinks it'll be Davis in Baltimore. Where was Batty drafted?
I think it was the 5th round as well.
196 overall, so it was the 6th round.
Okay.
5'8", 197. So yeah, not exactly a thumper, so to speak, a physical runner potentially. Could be. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in Baltimore in the backfield this year because J.K. Dobbins is farther along and we expect him to play week 1, but I don't think he's toast. I don't think he's going to be a viable RB2 for you week 1. Maybe an RB3. I think it's just, when guys come back from injuries of this significance, they usually don't fire right away. They're getting their sea legs back under them from a year of not playing football. They're rehabbing from injury. So
right. They're not hitting the ground running.
Yeah. Right. A lot of this is like repetition and mental, muscle memory and all of that stuff. And when you get away from that for a while, it takes time to ramp back up. So I don't think Dobbins is toast. And he's going to draw the week 1 start. But I would be looking for other options for your week 1 redraft.
Because that series 2, I think it goes straight to Mike Davis. Like I don't even think that Dobbins is going to be starting both of the first 2 series out there for his team. They might give Dobbins the de facto start.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as soon as the yards become tougher yards, the field becomes shorter. It's Davis's role for the first 3 weeks to month of the season. It could definitely be that way. As far as Batty goes, it's weird because we've never seen the Ravens target running backs.
No, it's not a part of their game plan. Not with Greg
even
Roman.
with the receiving depth chart that they have, tight ends and wide receivers included, I don't know how much of the ancillary targets are going to be going Tyler Batty's way as the 4th running back on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, you need to give Isaiah Likely like 100 targets, right?
Oh, God. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Isaiah Likely, and it's...
We naturally need to give him 100 targets after what we've seen so far.
No.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about Isaiah Likely.
We can do that. But I think this is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge situation in the Baltimore backfield where it could somewhat resemble last year where it was kind of musical chairs as to who was. Now, Devontae Freeman probably had the longest stretch of consistency last year, but there were still random weeks where it was like
Lat Murray. And...
Latavius Murray was the guy. Yeah.
So there will be weeks where it's Mike Davis. There will be weeks where it's obviously J.K. Dobbins. And late in the year, there might be a week or 2 where it's Mike Davis once he comes back.
Batty maybe gets a week or 2. Gus Edwards when he comes back.
I don't think Batty is ever going to be the type of guy that has a week. He might score a touchdown.
Yeah, he might get you 1 week.
That doesn't give him a week. And
well, all you got to do at that point is chip in like 30 yards of offense and you got a 10-point week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just and Tyler Batty in college in his last season, his junior season, 1,600 yards on the ground. So he is just as much of a rusher as he is thought of to be a pass catcher. But I think he's fighting with Justice Hill and ultimately takes Justice Hill's spot. And what has that yielded for fantasy in recent seasons? Absolutely nothing. So I would love to see it. Would love to see a 6th round pick rise up the depth chart like that. But for the Ravens, I just don't see it.
Yeah, going a little far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Going all the way to Batty.
But Dobbins is not toast. It just might take him a few weeks.
Yeah, it'll take some time.
And the fantasy season is long. So a month to begin the year might seem like a long time to wait for a running back to start hitting his ceiling weeks. But, I mean, there's still 13 games after that. So I don't think Dobbins is toast.
Nah, he should be all right by the second half of the season.
Alex Livingston, what's going on, man?
What's up, Alex?
Curious what rounds you think Godwin and Hopkins should be taken. What round is too early? I'm going to leave this to you because you are the ADP whisperer.
So on Underdog Fantasy, which is the off-season ADP that I essentially subscribe to, if I could, Godwin is regularly going in the 5th round. His ADP is around like 55 right now. Hopkins' ADP is around 75, about maybe say like 20 picks later. So Godwin regularly goes in the 5th. Hopkins regularly goes in the 7th. I think I love drafting those guys there. If you believe, and the vibes around Godwin are getting stronger and stronger. They've been positive so far. Again, maybe a lot like a guy like J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin maybe doesn't fire week 1. But the vibes around him just being available which were originally in question earlier this offseason, are getting stronger by the day. Godwin is ramping up what he's doing in camp each week, which is awesome. It's great to see. I love getting him in the 5th round. If I'm at the 4-5 turn, I might grab him there. I don't think I would go as high as the 4th round, just because there are guys who are actually healthy going in the 4th round who I would rather take a shot on. But if you can get Godwin in the 5th round, I would say as high as maybe the 4-5 turn. If I just know I'm not going to pick again for 20 picks, and I believe in Godwin, I would do that. As for Hopkins, I love getting him in the 7th round, and I never really see a scenario where I need to reach that far down to get him. If wide receivers are flying off the board early, and I need to get him in the 6th round, fine, okay, I will chase that. I won't chase into the 5th round because I can still get guys who are going to contribute to my team week 1. So 5th and 7th, respectively, for Godwin and Hopkins is ideal for me. 4-5 turn for Godwin. And then, again, if receivers are going off the board fast and early, then I'll do 6th round on Hopkins.
Especially if you're looking for a stack, if you have Kyler or Tom Brady, going for the stack is something you should be chasing with those two guys. Something that Nick did in our members only redraft league that we started this like a month ago. So yeah, something to think about. But I agree with that. Riley VIP, what's happening, man?
What's up, Riley?
Random player observation from the preseason. Cole Kmet looks like he could be a bit of a target hog in that terrible Bears offense.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah. Was regularly getting open in the Bears week 2 game. Looked pretty good. I mean, just out of necessity, yeah. He could garner a decent amount of attention, and he probably should. It's pretty thin Bears receiver depth chart behind Darnell Mooney, who is going to get like
N'Keal Harry, and he promptly got injured.
N'Keal Harry got injured. Byron Pringle got injured. I haven't seen an update on his return to play. I mean, we're down to Velus Jones.
For that other starting spot, it's him
and
or Equinemius St. Brown.
I think it might be. Let me double check the Bears depth chart at receiver. But it's musical chairs. I mean, Cole Kmet is probably one of their safer options in the passing game.
He's their wide receiver too. Let's just be real.
Probably.
Call a spade a spade. He's their wide receiver too. The concerns that I have are, I mean, like I don't. This is not the year for me to go in on a Justin Fields wide receiving option not named Darnell Mooney. If you look at what Justin Fields has done in the preseason, now it is only the preseason, but it gives us a taste of what we should be expecting in the regular season. First game, 4 completions, 7 throws, 28 yards. 1 10-yard rush, which is where we both believe he will be getting the majority of his fantasy value from. Week 2, a little bit of an improvement. 5 of 7 for 39 yards, scoreless.
Yeah.
And he's playing. Yes, he might be playing a series or 2 against the first team offense for first team defense. But I mean, where else in the league are you seeing a starting quarterback put up those numbers in back-to-back preseason games? That's just bad. Now, on the flip side, the team is going to be bad, so they're going to be throwing a lot in late in games, and Cole Kmet's going to be out there as the number 1 target. I just don't know if there's going to... The reason why fantasy owners have been hamstrung by Cole Kmet is that Jimmy Graham was catching passes in the end zone. How many times do we expect the Bears to be in the red zone?
So I mean, yeah, they're not going to be not going to be tops in the league. No.
At the area of drafts where Cole Kmet is, I would just rather Irv Smith. I would rather countless other tight end options than a guy who's, I mean, right now he's looking like he's going to be a poor man's Kyle Pitts from last year. One touchdown, 800 yards.
Yeah. All right. I see what you're saying.
And just zero upside. That's what and he might have, a couple, 1 or 2 100-yard games in there because he is going to be their de facto number 2 wide receiver. But wouldn't you rather shoot for a guy that has 4 to 5 touchdown upside, even if he's scoring 100 less receiving yards a year, in Mo Alley Cox, in Irv Smith, in Robert Tonyan?
Yeah.
The list goes on.
So I'm not crucifying him that badly, but yeah, you want to look for tight ends with. He's kind of an interesting case study, Kmet is, because on top of touchdown upside, a general thing that you want to look for is just opportunity. And Kmet has that in abundance. It's on a bad offense, but he's going to get ample opportunities to put up some respectful numbers this year. Again, as you alluded to, as what is probably going to amount to the wide receiver 2 role for this team. I can only put so much stock into how a team looks in the preseason. I've seen teams look great in the preseason and then be terrible in the regular season.
As have I. But
so I can only put so much, and when I say put so much, I mean I'm basically putting zero stock into it. What I did see, and yeah, maybe the proof doesn't show up in the preseason numbers again, like in a couple of series, like you said. What I did see from the Bears offense is more movement and motion in one series than Matt Nagy had Justin Fields doing for the course of an entire game last year.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
They had a nice bootleg play where Fields rolled to his left, planted, found his guy. It was Kmet, threw the ball downfield for a real nice 17, 18-yard gain. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. That's what I'm optimistic about. I'm not necessarily worried about the fact that, again, in half of a quarter of football, Fields didn't put up any type of crazy numbers that you would want to see. So I agree that this is not going to be an offense that has scoring opportunities in abundance, but I do think there's value to be had in the fact that Kmet just has, of those middling tight end options, outside of Robert Tonyan, maybe the most wide open opportunity.
And I can't disagree with anything you're saying there.
So I'm a little,
to contrast that preseason breakdown. I mean, yeah, you throw it out once the regular season hits, but that doesn't bode well. You can at least say that doing what he has done thus far in the preseason doesn't bode well. And you can throw it out the window come week 1, but it's still
sure. I mean,
it still matters to a certain extent when breaking down what the ceiling of an offense can be in the following regular season. What I will say as a last comment to Cole Kmet, to kind of hammer in that the poor man's Kyle Pitts comment, he was 8th in targets last year. He was 6th in snap share, 5th in slot snaps, tight end 21 in fantasy points per game. Because he scored how many touchdowns? 0.
He didn't have a touchdown.
On 93 targets.
Well, that's going to change this year. I mean, how much can he go up to the 2 that he got in 2020? It's he probably will. He probably will. I would say optimistically he could get 4.
We have seen better tight ends,
4 or 5,
on slightly better teams mimic his touchdown production over the last 2 years. And because of where he's being drafted, we've seen Cole Kmet be drafted ahead of Irv Smith and a bunch of the guys that I named off before. And that just it's the ceiling is there. And lots of times as fantasy managers, we want to pick the guy and identify the guy that at the end of the year we can all point to and say, yeah, but look, I identified this guy and I was right. And I feel like Cole Kmet's a little bit of a trap for that kind of thinking.
All right. Yeah.
I think just like the rest of the Bears offense, he's one season away from realizing his ceiling on a week-to-week basis. It's not going to happen this year. It could happen next year. And we've been waiting for Cole Kmet. But you got to remember he's in year 3. Lots of times with tight ends, it takes to year 4, year 5. So a little bit on the opposite sides of the coin there with Cole Kmet from both Nick and I. Little bit on both sides of the coin for the Bears offense in totality. He will be a target hog, so you're right there. I just don't know if, they're going to be going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and he racks up some yards but doesn't get the touchdowns that we all know are super important to tight end value. Franchise.
At that point in the draft, yeah.
What's happening? What do you guys think about Trestan Ebner? So since we're sticking on the Bears offense, what do you think about him, bro?
I mean, he's putting some highlights on tape. It was like a 25-yard run where he made a nice move, caught a touchdown. So he's flashing for sure. He's got David Montgomery and a confirmed avoided any major injury Khalil Herbert ahead of him. What is seventh round pick?
Sixth
round. Okay.
Yep.
So he's got an opportunity to be something, say, like their kick returner to kick things off, to kick the season off. So he'll be involved in that regard. Montgomery is going to get, let's say, 60 to 65% of the work in this backfield. Maybe Khalil Herbert gets around 25%. And then that leaves somewhere around 10 to 15% of the work to the other options in the backfield. So he's definitely got, I mean, he's showing talent. Like I said, he's putting highlights on tape. It's just that he's not quite high enough on the depth chart yet. And, if we're worried about targets and all of that on what could be a less than a stellar Bears offense, maybe a, below average to mediocre Bears offense that might have some difficulty moving the ball, it's going to be difficult for their third running back to get opportunities over when Montgomery has an actual chance to get on the field in neutral game scripts and when Khalil Herbert's in when they're throwing the ball. So very interesting long-term piece, very interesting long-term player. I would say a great guy for your taxi squad if you play Dynasty. On this offense, buried behind 2 guys already, I would say his fantasy impact this year is probably going to be minimal. But he's showing flashes. You got to give him that.
Yeah, and I mean he is projected to be the longest tenured running back for the duration of his contract, if that makes sense. Because Khalil Herbert comes off the books a year before he does. Darrington Evans, who was there, comes off a year before Khalil Herbert, and David Montgomery comes off the books after this season. So Trestan Ebner is technically due to be rostered by the Bears for longer than anybody else currently at the running back position. I don't know if he's ever going to rise up above RB2. Mm-hmm. And even if I think he would do well to get to RB2, I think he is going to be an RB3 for his career. I think Khalil Herbert can be the RB1 as soon as next year, but I think then the Bears would be drafting another running back to the room.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of
You're
needs.
hoping Trestan Ebner
maybe
can be their Tariq Cohen, who did the most on minimal touches while he was healthy early in his career. Yeah. Can Trestan Ebner do that? He had 4.43 speed, so possibly 92nd percentile speed, so it's
pretty
possible.
Pretty good.
But I don't know if this is the guy that I would be looking at to identify the next Phillip Lindsay, the next James Robinson, the next Elijah Mitchell. I don't know if Treston Ebner is the next one of those guys, a running back to come out of obscurity and to help you win your fantasy league. And Nemo, you mean Likely, the guy y'all were shitting on last week? How ironic. Should we go there now? Should we just...
Yeah.
Rip the Band-Aid off?
Yeah, you have the floor.
Isaiah Likely, 8 receptions, 100 yards, 1 touchdown in a half of football.
Yeah, he balled out.
So, I mean, on just the surface, looks great. Looks great. But digging into a little bit more of the metrics, we've spoken in the past about his poor relative athletic score, 4.88, which is slightly above the average athleticism for a tight end coming into the league since 1987. His tight end comps are Max Williams, Richard Rodgers, Dwayne Allen, and Ryan Izzo. Those are the guys that athletically, size, speed comp to him. Now, there's a lot that has been made about, Isaiah Likely, yeah, he's a tight end, but he's going to be playing wide receiver snaps in that Ravens offense. So what did I do? I went to RAS.com or whatever it is, went to their RAS calculator, put in his exact measurements from his tight end workout into the wide receiver workout. It spit out the number 3.55. So his wide receiver RAS is 3.55. It's worse than it is as a tight end. His wide receiver comps, funnily enough, one of them, Tylan Wallace. The other ones, Jeremy Curley, Ryan Switzer, and Quintez Cephas. So that's not to say it's a whole lot of trash. It's just he can be a role player, but his ceiling probably isn't that high. And it's because, you don't see many wide receivers in the NFL running 4.8s. That's just, yes, he is somewhat of a mismatch at 6'4". But even then, there are countless other tight ends that are more of a mismatch than him, even on his own roster. Josh Oliver, Charlie Kolar when he gets healthy. And I think the other thing that we're missing here is Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley continues to look like a starting quarterback in the NFL throughout preseason.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys. He just looks like he is a starting quarterback throughout the preseason. He looks
like he deserves an opportunity somewhere.
13 of 14 for 129 yards, 1 touchdown. 100 of those yards in one of those touchdowns, that one touchdown went to Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
Remember when what happened to Mark Andrews when Lamar Jackson went out last year and Tyler Huntley came in?
He stayed hot.
No, he got better.
Tight end 1.
He got better. Because Tyler Huntley succeeds when he's targeting the tight end more than any other quarterback I've ever seen. Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews from weeks 1 to weeks 14, 13.1 half PPR fantasy points per game. Pretty damn good. Led the league. Tyler Huntley and Mark Andrews from weeks 15 to weeks 18, 20.1 half PPR fantasy points per game. It jumped a whole touchdown in fantasy production when it went from Lamar Jackson to Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley has made Isaiah Likely's preseason. Now, he's been good. Isaiah Likely's been good. But look at the guys he's outshining. Raleigh Webb, Mekhi Polk, Bailey Gaither, Shamar Bridges, shout out, Nate McCreary, Josh Oliver, Patrick Ricard, and Nick Boyle. Have you heard of the majority of those guys?
Heard of some of them.
He should be outshining those guys. If you took out Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman, the Ravens would have the worst receiving core in the entire NFL. And he's playing with the second team because they're not starting any starters. So, of course, he should be looking great on the second team, playing with what on other NFL teams would be their third and fourth and fifth stringers, with a quarterback that almost exclusively targets tight ends. Of course he's going to look great.
And it's a team that utilizes the tight end position in the passing game.
People are acting like Mark Andrews left and got hurt and is out for the year. And the way they're talking about Isaiah Likely, it's just yo, chill.
And also, again, I don't want to get too low on bad statistical outputs in the preseason. I don't want to get too high on big time statistical outputs in the preseason. There are so many variables that go into it. And look, it sounds like we're taking away from Isaiah Likely, and I don't at the end of the day want to do that, because shout out to the kid for putting impressive numbers up and putting good tape out there as a 4th round pick who is expected by anybody to be nothing more than a developmental prospect this year. So big time shout out. It's just the regular season is a different beast. And if he does it, if he puts up 8 for 100 in a couple regular season games this year, then we'll do the ice bucket challenge shit. I don't know. We'll bring that back. And again, I'd be more than happy for him that it happens.
Absolutely.
I just can't put that much stock into. I can't get too high or too low in the preseason. Just like I'm not worried about Justin Fields throwing for 40 yards, I'm not worried about Isaiah Likely going for 8 and a hundo. And with a little bit more playing time. That's super impressive. Fields' numbers are not. I put little stock in both for different reasons.
All else equal, you would like to see somebody do better than worse in the preseason. That's about all of the stock I put into that too. And Isaiah Likely has done that. Respect to him. All the respect to him. Here's me talking from behind a camera. I couldn't even go out and make one of those catches he made with no defenders, and Aaron Rodgers throwing me the ball. So, come on. Respect due. But we are talking about fantasy, and I don't want anybody to go overboard with respect to this guy's fantasy value, because that would be steering you wrong, and we're trying to help y'all win your leagues and get the best dynasty team available. And to me, unless you have Mark Andrews and you want the Isaiah Likely handcuff, there's no reason to... There's not much of a reason. There's not much of a reason to be super gung-ho about rostering him. Because it's not like he's a backup like a Foster Moreau who has an insane athleticism behind a clear-cut tight end 1. It's a guy with average athleticism, subpar even athleticism, behind a tight end 1. A young tight end 1.
Yeah.
Who is putting up these numbers with a quarterback who almost exclusively targets their tight end. So his numbers, even in the preseason, a little bit inflated. But so I don't want to continue to shit on Isaiah Likely. I hope he has a great NFL career. He has, despite what he's done in the preseason, he hasn't made a believer out of me. And that's where I'm going to leave it. But I hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah. We'll admit it if it happens. Of course.
But, and Sad J says well said about Dobbins.
Yeah, Lamar is the RB1. Like Josh Allen is the Bills RB1. Like Kyler Murray is maybe not. Trey Lance is the 49ers RB1. There. So yeah. Ro, appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
This is Trayvon Walker or Von Miller.
Von Miller.
I mean, it's gotta be Von. He's this must be an IDP, even if it's Dynasty, and Von is what, 10, 12 years older than Trayvon Walker?
Yeah, I think it's 21 versus 33. I would still rather have Von Miller.
Well, Trayvon as the overall number 1 pick is certainly enticing, but it's Von. Give me give me the proven, at least for this year, it's no question to me. Give me the proven guy on a team with expectations where the defense is expected to be good.
Yeah, they were the number one defense last year, and they added Von Miller because they felt like they needed more quarterback pressure. And the Bills, they have drafted D-end with the first or second pick for the last 3 seasons. They're deep in rotation there, which means it should free up Von Miller to do a lot of things. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And teams will need to pass a lot against the Bills, which will leave the opposing quarterback for Von Miller open to a lot more opportunities for sacks and fumbles than even Trayvon Walker, who looks like he should be a very, very good young pro. But edge goes to the future Hall of Famer over the guy that we have yet to see make an NFL play.
Yep.
What's going on, Sam?
What's up, Sam?
Sad J, doing my first standard draft in 10 years of fantasy this Friday. Damn.
Wow.
In mock drafts, I find myself disrespecting the wide receiver position, always flexing a running back, and drafting quarterback and tight end earlier than in PPR formats. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, what's the... Is it starting 2 receivers? Is it starting 3 receivers? Yeah, I mean, it naturally makes sense to fade wide receiver
in standard, yeah,
in standard scoring, and I feel like in a lot of those types of leagues, they cut the receiver number in the starting lineup from 3 to 2. So yeah, if I only need to plug 2 receiver spots, I would. I mentioned in my draft plan, which if anybody hasn't had a chance to look at the draft plan. And for 2022 redraft and is interested, it is the second link in the description of this video. I say in my draft plan, as it pertains to wide receivers, that there's about 40 receivers in a 90 pick span that I would be okay ending up with, which means in a league where you start 2 receivers and it's standard, it's insanely easy to fill those spots. In my opinion, it's about as easy in that scenario. It's as easy to plug in wide receivers as it is a quarterback in 1 QB, because there's so many good options. So yes, in standard, prioritize running back. Guys like Derrick Henry get a significant boost. Guys like Damian Harris get a boost. Guys like Devin Singletary get a boost. Guys who are not as known for their pass catching chops get a boost. Guys who are maybe known exclusively for their pass catching prowess fall down a little bit. So it all, yes, in a vacuum, that strategy makes sense, but be careful about the running backs that you're taking, of course. And then as far as the quarterbacks and the tight ends, tight end, I would say it's a relative thing because you're still you're probably only starting 1, and their ADPs fall a little bit. I guess that's actually makes fun, if the ADP falls of say Kelsey and Andrews and Pitts because they're not getting points for catches. If their ADP does slide maybe by at least a few spots for those guys in a standard, then sure, yeah, I want them over a receiver because then at least you're getting a premium player at a thin position of a thin talent pool, and you only have to slot in 1 guy. So yeah, that's fine.
But no, yeah, I mean, you look at the field of players that are available after round 6. I mean, if you waited that long to address your wide receiver position, you could still end up with Christian Kirk. People are a little bit down on Amari Cooper, but he's definitely going to have 6 games of Deshaun Watson to end his year. That pushes him up a little bit. Adam Thielen, ADP of 67. Robert Woods, ADP of 98. Like you can identify guys at the wide receiver position that can be had super late that will still give you good fantasy output. Maybe not top tier, but good fantasy output if you choose to hammer other positions earlier in the draft. Absolutely. So in standard, I don't think that is a wrong way to go. You just have to then identify.
I'm good with it.
The wide receivers that are really going to put you over the top late in drafts and target them.
It's easier to fill though. If you start 3 receivers, then maybe don't deprioritize them so much. But if you only start 2, which I feel like is kind of regular in the standard scoring for whatever reason, it's probably the easiest position to fill.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fine. Bump everybody else up a little bit.
And hey, man, in first standard draft in 10 years of fantasy, good luck, and have fun with it.
Go win a standard chip.
The Mo ladies 4.5 RAS score.
Yeah,
likely.
we talked about likely.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that because we don't want to continue to make this we're trying to make this nice about him, but also ultimately we're not in.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
He should have a good, solid NFL career. Yeah, Sajay, only my Bears would draft a 25-year-old rookie wide receiver.
He'll have some type of role. We'll see.
Hey, sometimes this works out. Sometimes a organization will draft a late or a older wide receiver prospect, and it works out. Look at Cooper Kupp. I believe he was drafted at age 24. Look at Van Jefferson. Same organization. He was drafted at age 24. Sometimes it doesn't work out. You look at the Seahawks. Dwayne Eskridge. He was drafted at 24. So, it's not. When you're looking at it through the
Rams brass, also making a call like that over the Bears.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately,
but sometimes we look through look at fantasy and football and the stuff that happens through the lens of dynasty. Once we start doing dynasty as opposed to redraft and that, so that's when the 25-year-old rookie stands out as an anomaly. Maybe he has the talent. And he absolutely has the opportunity. So it remains to be seen how good of a fantasy player and football player he can be. I'm not gonna crap on the Bears for doing it just yet. I have in the past. I'm gonna reserve my judgment until I see him on the field.
We actually see what happens. Yeah. The glass half full way of viewing it is, generally speaking, these guys are as pro ready as they can be.
Very mature. Coming into the league at age 25, so that could be a plus for him on a team that might need it.
Like whatever he gives you this year might be as good of what he can provide in seasons to come. But that could help a wide receiver room that sorely needs somebody to step up. So we'll see.
And it's hard for a guy to break out when he's playing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, and Drake London. And that's what he was playing with for the first year of his career. For the second year, Michael Pittman left, but he was still playing with Amon-Ra and Drake London. So, it's hard for, I'm not going to crap on a guy because he isn't doing better than, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Drake London, who look like they should be very good pros in this league for a long time. So, I'm not going to...
Similar conversation to Brian Robinson. Look at the guys that were ahead of him at Alabama: Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, Najee Harris. It's almost like we don't know. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, and that's that whole situation's been a learning experience for me. Because I constantly talked about, he's a 5th-year wide receiver or running back coming into the league. Of course, he looked good in his 5th season. But I never really dug into why it took him 5 years to break out. It's because look at the talent that was ahead of him.
There was lots of talent ahead of him,
that I missed out on Brian Robinson because I looked at what was in front of me and didn't delve into why.
There is something to be said for that, though. Naturally, you want to see who's the most successful guy it's hard to look at backups and just say, well, they didn't get the opportunity. Why did they not get the opportunity? You know,
right.
So, and Brian Robinson consistently ended up behind somebody else. I mean, sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees in that scenario because you just don't. It's like, why did that guy not get onto the field? That's like the question that you start asking. And then you think of it in kind of like a fading type of way, as far as like, I'm fading that player because he didn't get on the field. We'll see how things play out at the NFL level, though. That's a whole separate conversation. But similar to Velus, just in that he played behind other talent and we just never got to see the opportunity. So we'll see.
Now, do you want to delve a little bit into the Brian Robinson situation since you just did a video on it a few days ago?
I mean, I'll let, if anybody hasn't seen it, I'll give people the opportunity to maybe check that out if they really want to, because I haven't seen his name show up yet in the chat. But if anybody does want us to talk a little bit more about Robinson and the Commander situation, we can. But there is a video breakdown on our channel if you want to hear a little bit more. But why don't we keep it moving, because we certainly have some things to get to.
Yo, Elout, what's happening,
what's
man?
Up, Elout? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, man. Jason,
Riley,
what's happening? Cali Loco, good to have you back.
What's up, Callie? What's up, Hunter? And Riley, send me your in the Discord. Send me your sleeper ID. We gotta get that. We gotta get that second members league set up. Anyway, and Callie, I think there are some agreements about fading Cole Kmet coming up here in the chat as it pertains to the other options around him.
And that's where it is. Like, I'm not saying Cole Kmet is a bad player and all that. It's just based on where he's being drafted, the tight ends that are around him and are drafted after him, I tend to like a little bit more.
Just feel better about their upside.
Yeah. And it's not that Cole Kmet's going to be bad. And yes, Hunter, you're absolutely right. The TD Vulture, Jimmy Graham, is now gone.
Could mean 4 or 5 scores for Kmet.
It could.
Which would be great. That would be an improvement.
Yeah.
Which is all you can
ask
for.
His high watermark is 2. Last year he had 0. So hopefully we can see some third year growth from him in the tight end.
I would think he can get 4 or 5.
I hope so.
I would think.
I hope so.
Yeah. Third year player, a little bit of experience now, expected to step into the clear-cut role as the top pass catching option at the position, and ultimately for the team in general. We'll see.
And Callie, but you say you would rather get Njoku and pair him with the Tunyon or a Logan Thomas, put them on the IR spot. I don't know if Tunyon can be put on IR. Didn't he come off PUP?
Yeah, but if he's ruled out for week 1, then
Got you.
In redraft, obviously you can IR stash him for that week. And I don't know if I would take, or he said or. Yeah, I mean, Njoku's fine. Could get peppered with targets from a backup quarterback. So, yeah, Njoku's fine as a late-round flyer. I like Gerald Everett attached to Justin Herbert.
Yep.
And you could go total bottom of the barrel and grab Mo Alley Cox. Or Hayden Hurst. I like Hayden Hurst, too, attached to Joe Burrow. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. There's plenty of names at the tight end position where, like, the touchdown upside is solid.
Even Tyler Higbee. Super overlooked and can get drafted
cheap,
around that same range.
Yeah,
and has more touchdown opportunity.
Yeah, he was like a 7th or 8th round pick the past couple of years. Now he's like a 14th round pick.
Right.
Because he got an MCL sprain and missed the Super Bowl, which was earlier this year. So, yeah, I'm fine with. I've never been a huge Higbee guy, but, I mean, he's never been cheaper in redraft. Well, at least as far as when he's been.
I'm looking at underdog
relevant.
ADP right now, and it seems like Cole Kmet is leading a tier, and I don't know if he should be the leader of this tier. Once Kyle Pitts, Waller, Kittle, Schultz, Goddard, Hawkinson, Knox, and Ertz are off the board, then it's Cole Kmet, which just seems way too early for me when Alberto, and we'll talk about him later, Pat Freiermuth, Irv Smith, Hunter Henry, David Njoku, or Gerald Everett, Robert Tunyon, Tyler Higbee, Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, Austin Hooper are all going behind him. Mo Ali Cox. Like I feel like he should be further down that tier. I don't think he should be leading that tier. But
people are drafting for opportunity, maybe not necessarily touchdown upside.
Yeah.
For better or worse. That's what it is.
Hey, yo, Sam, is the Raiders' RB room going to be a mess this year, or is someone going to grab it? Is there a back to own?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's going to be 4 guys involved. I think it's still, I mean, it's gross.
It's Josh Jacobs still.
I think it's still Jacobs is the guy who's going to be the most fantasy relevant player in this backfield. He's, for at least this year, it might not be week to week consistency. Like there could absolutely be some weeks where he's when the Raiders are trailing, he's going to be phased out of the game plan. So anytime you have a matchup, if you're interchanging RB2s and 3s and the Raiders are on the road against the Bills, let's say, I don't even know if that's a matchup this year, but let's say the Raiders are on the road against Buffalo and maybe they're not playing super well and we expect the Bills to win that game going away. Yeah, Amir Abdullah might see a lot of snaps that game. Maybe Josh Jacobs would have to get lucky with like falling into the end zone a couple times to hit pay dirt that game. But if he doesn't, he's going to end up like with 45 to 50 scoreless yards and give you a dud of a week in your starting lineup. Like it could be, you're going to have to play the matchups. But I think on the whole, overall, it's Jacobs.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a low-end RB2 instead of being a low-end RB1 like he's been for the first 3 years of his career.
He might not be top 15, but he'll be like in that 20-22 range.
Yeah. And I think he is being disrespected in terms of where he's being drafted ADP-wise right now. And that happens, and I think that's an area where you can capitalize on that. Just like you should be able to capitalize on Antonio, the thought process for people on Antonio Gibson right now. I think you can capitalize on the same kind of thought process for a Josh Jacobs, which is the team's phasing him out of the offense. Look at all these offseason moves. It doesn't look good for Josh Jacobs in the future, but that is taking out the fact that he's still the RB1 on that team right now. They might not want him in 2023, but he's their best running back right now. They just let go of Kenyon Drake. Yes, that does open more touches for Emil Abdullah and Zamir White, but guess what? It also opens up somewhat more touches for the guy that's been doing it in Josh Jacobs. So sometimes you just got to look at what's right in front of you instead of trying to talk yourself out of it, and Josh Jacobs is that guy right now.
Yeah, it might not feel good or it might not look pretty, but it's got to be him for this year.
He's nobody's picture perfect, sexy running back pick, but he never has.
No,
and he's still always
he's the best player in that backfield.
Right.
Still.
Nemo, who is the next Josh Flash Gordon?
Hey.
I mean, just a guy to come out of nowhere and be a
just explode, burst onto the scene. Josh Gordon was taken with a supplemental pick.
Yeah, I think it was the second round though of the supplemental draft, and he went on to have what I think was a 1,600-yard season with Brandon Weeden.
Yeah,
like and then he never hit those heights again.
Yeah, I mean, those guys don't exactly grow on trees as far as like failed opportunity, but the league ends up somebody in the league ends up taking a chance on you and you're tops at your position.
I'm trying to think like guys.
I mean, I guess from an oh my God, as far as expectations and what they were and what they are now. And this isn't even comparable because he was a first-round pick, but like I guess maybe just the vibes are bad on Treylon Burks right now.
See, I was gonna say Christian Watson.
I mean, sure, but it's such a apples to oranges because these guys were actually drafted high. Like Josh Gordon comes around once every 20, 25 years, maybe a couple decades, maybe more. It's just such a fascinating outlier of a story.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Gordon was DK Metcalf with every off the field issue you could imagine in 2012.
Yeah.
And those off the field issues plagued him every year of his career, and he basically has lived off of that year one.
Yeah.
Where he was going into the game stoned off his ass and catching 3 touchdowns a game. Like he's lived off of that high, no pun intended, for his entire fantasy career. So I don't know if I'm ever looking for the next Josh Allen, because talk about Josh Flash Gordon. No, Josh Flash Gordon. He was more like Josh Flash in the Pan Gordon. And that's coming from a person who was in on Josh Gordon every year for the next 8 years because of what he did for me in 2012.
We also have to remember the off-field issues that he dealt with are viewed in a significantly different light now than they were 10 years ago. It's just, again, it is so, like, we saw who was the offensive tackle that Miami drafted?
Laramie Tunsil.
Laramie
Tunsil's gas mask.
Saw
Yo,
a video surfaced of him with a gas mask on his face, literally like I don't even think it was hours, like minutes before the NFL draft, and he was still
it was 15 minutes before the draft started.
Right. And there's conspiracy theories out there that the Miami Dolphins were the ones who found the video, put it out there just to draft him anyway, but try to knock his stock down a little bit. Now, believe that if you want to, but regardless, when that happened, not only was he still a top 15 pick in the draft, but they ultimately decided that they're going to let him enter the league on a clean slate. Like, Josh Gordon's story is just, I don't think it can happen again.
Now, where I'm just, so if you're just looking for a wide receiver, take out all the off the field issues and all that win the Josh Gordon, the supplemental draft, all that. If you're just looking for a wide receiver to come out of relative obscurity and, be a threat to technically lead the league in receiving or come close to it, I think Christian Watson, how far has Christian Watson fallen? He was being drafted in the top 5 in rookie drafts 2 months ago.
No, that was more like back half of the first round.
Okay.
Because it was still Brees, Walker, Burks, Wilson. Did I say London?
No, you didn't say London.
It was still Brees, Walker, London, Burks, Wilson. And then like James
we
Williams,
were in a
Chris
draft.
Olave,
We were in a draft, and there's somebody
Moore
in the room right now with us who drafted Christian Watson 5th overall in a rookie draft. So it's not like it happened.
It happened.
It
happened once.
Okay, well, it happened in one of the only times I was exposed to a rookie draft. So
yeah,
it happened.
That wasn't happening anywhere else.
Fair enough.
That wasn't happening anywhere else.
Even if he's drafted in the back half of the draft, in the first round, he's probably fallen a full round in value.
Yes.
And people have completely forgotten about him because Romeo Doubs is catching touchdown passes from Jordan Love.
Yeah.
So relative obscurity, technically it's not relative obscurity, but he could come into the league, show that he has the talent to be the number 1 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, and just be that. He could. Nico Collins has had a great preseason. I don't think anybody's expecting him to be more than the wide receiver 3/4. Mm-hmm. But on a team that should be down a whole lot, week in, week out, with only really Brandon Cooks on the other side of the field, Nico Collins in year 2 could be a lot better than we all think he's going to be. Those are the 2 that come to mind for me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to put Gabe Davis in that category because I think he He's not coming from relative obscurity for anybody right now. And I'm just looking at wide receivers that could come out of relative obscurity and do Josh Gordon things.
Yeah. Sounds like Nemo wasn't even expecting an answer. He just wanted to get under your skin.
All right, that's fine. Yo, Cali Loco says, I like Amir Abdullah for the Raiders right now that Drake is gone. And yeah, right underneath them, Sam. It's funny how Abdullah is finally doing something in the NFL.
I guess he's their third down back. He's the guy that's going to be in there on passing downs. He could be like the J.D. McKissick of that Raiders offense, where he's just, he's vulturing just enough. He's via fantasy relevant every other week, but like, 1 week it's 15 fantasy points, another week it's 4. Could be something to that effect. We'll see. Also, there are a lot of comments in the chat. We see y'all. We appreciate it. We will get to everything.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to generally throw that out there. Yeah, I mean, he could be the James White type. It's probably not a situation. I'm not drafting him yet in shallow redraft leagues, but in best ball, yeah, I mean, sure. That he's got a role locked up to some extent. Spend a 16th round pick on him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking here. From weeks 12 on, he was playing it around half of the snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And Abdullah was the RB 28.
So
in that span.
There you go.
So
so he was an RB3.
High end RB3, low end RB2 weekly.
So he's got flex appeal in matchups. Again, like I said, it's kind of the flip side. Again, if the Raiders go on the road in Buffalo and they're 7.5 point dogs, sure, fire up Abdullah in your flex spot and take Jacobs out of your RB2 spot unless you have nothing else to pivot to. Something like that.
I don't think he's ever going to steal Josh Jacobs' job. If anybody's going to steal Josh Jacobs' job, it's going to be Zamir White. But like 1/3 of that offensive production will continue to go to Amir Abdullah, even if Zamir White takes the Josh Jacobs role and they switch. Like I think you're thinking of him as a James White type. I think that's exactly right, and his role is solidified.
Yeah.
MT, what has a target hog in a Bears offense ever yielded?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's fair. It's
wide
been
receiver
kind of
12 in back-to-back seasons with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles. And I wouldn't call Allen Robinson 2.0 a fail.
I thought he said the second. Sorry, I thought for some reason I read as the second option. That's Allen Robinson.
Look at it.
Yeah, last year Allen Robinson quit on the team. 2 years prior to that, with terrible quarterback play, he was a wide receiver 1,
and that was not a flash in the pan because he did it 2 years straight,
and had done it in Jacksonville as well with Blake Bortles.
Yeah, I'll chase a target hog in most offenses. If
I'll
it's their
chase a target
number
hog
one target hog, it's just
like Darnell Mooney should be. You should be interested in Darnell Mooney this year.
Yes,
it might be gross sometimes. The targets might not be high quality all the time.
But as long as you play in some sort of PPR format, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Go out and get the target hog for the Bears. It's just target hog number 2 for the Bears.
Then you have an argument. Yeah, like
right.
that doesn't yield the results that you're looking for. But the number 1 option,
chase that.
Yeah. Mooney in the 6th round this year is something I'm interested in. For sure.
And Riley, I know you guys were in on Damian Harris over Ramondre as of last week with ADP in mind. Have you guys switched stances on that yet? I'm a huge Ramondre believer, reaching for him a little for sure.
No, I like them both, but I still prefer Harris to his cost because I expect him to be the first and second down runner. Now, the report came out today that both of these guys are 3-down backs. So again,
and I believe that. Look at the split that they had last year. They were both catching around the same amount of passes on the same amount of targets with around the same amount of rushes. Like,
so
that's
in that
fine.
scenario,
I just want the cheaper guy.
I want the cheaper guy, right? And right now, that's Harris. And I still expect Harris to get the first snap week 1. It wouldn't be a ridiculous upset if it was Ramondre. I'm just saying, based off of what happened last year, I would expect Harris to be the one who gets the team's first snap, depending on how much significance you put into that. So yeah, look, if you believe in Ramondre, then go get Ramondre. But in this scenario where I expect both guys to have some level of effectiveness, give me the guy whose ADP is cheaper, and that's Harris.
Yep.
Yeah.
Callie, you say you're not big on Zamir White yourself. He reminds you of Ronald Jones in KC. The only thing, I'm not going to go there because Ronald Jones, we know he's not a good pass catcher, and we know he's not a very good pass blocker as well. Zamir White can catch passes. He's been doing it all preseason. I think they've made a point to showcase that and to test his ability to do that in game situations throughout the preseason, which is what the preseason's for. And he hasn't wet the bed. Like, he's been a decent pass catcher at the running back position, and he hits the holes hard in when he's running the rock down the middle. Like, I don't think he's Ronald Jones.
Ronald Jones might not make the team.
Yeah, I don't think Zamir White's in danger of not making his team.
Well, as a 4th-round rookie, yeah, you're gonna make it, but yeah, it could be lights out for Ronald Jones.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna go that far.
Yeah. And Jones had some decently productive, he had some games in Tampa, so.
He had a year in Tampa where he was RB2. He just wasn't very good at catching passes that year and exposed himself. Passes. But he was given an RB1 workload and produced RB2 numbers.
There you go.
MT, don't touch the Bears offense unless you have nose plugs on.
I mean, again,
sure.
I'll take Mooney in the 6th round. I get not wanting anything else. I'm pretty off David Montgomery at his ADP. Khalil Herbert is interesting just because as a depth running back option who is not very expensive. But yeah, I understand. You want to target good players on good offenses, but I'll say it. I'll say it every time if the situation presents itself. Players produce on bad teams too. And Darnell Mooney in the 6th round has a chance to be your team's wide receiver 3, giving you wide receiver 2 numbers. I will take that.
Yep. Yeah, and just because you don't believe that something has happened since 1985 doesn't mean that you shouldn't be invested in an offense's number 1 target hog.
Yeah, Allen Robinson was a wide receiver 1 a couple of years ago with Mitchell Trubisky. So
2 years in a row.
I can believe
before
Darnell
that,
Mooney
the Bears,
being a wide receiver 2.
Brandon Marshall, wasn't he a Bear?
Yeah, Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, so it's not like it hasn't ever happened.
Matt Forte,
the number 1 target getter for the Bears, seems to do well every year.
Yeah.
Take note of that.
We're just talking about target hogs. Yeah. The wide receivers. Yeah.
Because I don't want people to be to not touch an offense. Like,
draft Mooney in the 6th round, man.
Know what an offense is, and if they aren't an offense that you are super in on, still be open to drafting the number 1 target hog.
Yeah.
Just don't invest in anything else in that offense. But the smart way to do it is to always be invested in target hogs.
It's like Brandon Cooks in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should be in on Brandon Cooks. The Texans stink. The Texans are going to be terrible, but you should be in on Brandon Cooks. Now, Brandon Cooks is, to this point, a more proven and better receiver than Darnell Mooney. But Darnell Mooney's, honestly,
they have similarities. So
Darnell Mooney should be solid. I'm taking him in the 6th round.
There are similarities between those two. Rojo, dynasty startup. Rather have Dobbins or Jacobs? I mean, I'd rather have Dobbins. He's younger, isn't he?
Yeah, Dobbins is younger. I mean, Jacobs Jacobs battled multiple injuries last year, but Jacobs doesn't have a torn ACL to his name. So if you're worried about that type of stuff, like, there's more of an argument there. But Dobbins is at least for the next, I would say, couple years in a stable situation. We don't know if Jacobs is going to go the way of, oh man, who's even a comparison of a guy who like flashed early and then just became a part of an ugly committee, and that's how he ended his career. I don't even know. Like, Jacobs has significantly more uncertainty in the short term. At least Dobbins, we know, will be with the Ravens for a couple of years and could be better next year than he is this year.
Yeah, I mean, the age difference isn't a ton. Dobbins is 1 year younger than Jacobs, but Dobbins also ran a 4.37, and I think Jacobs ran a 4.6. So even if J.K. Dobbins loses a little bit of a step due to this ACL injury, he's still much more of an athlete than Dobbins is much more of an athlete than Jacobs is. And yeah, Jacobs could go next year and become Ryan Matthews, where he had a few 1,000-yard seasons with his first team, and then just becomes like a 600-yarder, gives you a few...
Change of pace guy.
Right,
yeah.
gives you a few RB2 weeks in there, but for the most part, he's an RB3, RB4.
Like, he was used up early on, and then that was that.
Right. I think that could be what's in store for Jacobs.
So, yeah, give me Dobbins over Jacobs.
Nemo. Side A, Nick, Nemo, and Rojo. Side B, John, Salmon Hunter.
A, not even a question.
Biased.
Not even a question.
D-franchise, I personally like Charlie Kolar more than likely. Hey, you and me both. I just would like to see Charlie Kolar healthy. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
And then just to move right into Iron's question, I would think now, at least to start the season, Kolar will be behind Likely. I mean, Likely has earned it. Kolar is now needing to get back up to speed coming back from the injury. I do believe he avoided the PUP list, though. Teams started putting players on the PUP list today, which means that they'll be out for at least the first 4 games of the season. I think Kolar avoided that. I don't think they put him on. So that's a positive development. That's a good sign. But naturally, I mean, Likely has been out there. Kolar hasn't. So for now, I would think Kolar might be the tight end 3, at least to start the season.
Yeah, but he has the athleticism to turn that on its head. But yeah, edge goes to the guy that's been doing it in the preseason.
He's out there. Yeah, he's out there. He's built repetition. He's got the reps. He's got work with probably the first team offense in camp here and there. Whereas Kolar is now, has been working from the sidelines and is on the mend. So,
and I mean, for what it's worth, they're kind of completely different athletes. One's 6'4", one's 6'7". Like, one runs a 4.83
we got some small
and isn't a
forwards
blocker at all, and one runs a 4.62 and is a blocker. Charlie Kolar is the more complete tight end. We've seen this team draft 2 tight ends, and one's Hayden Hurst, the other's Mark Andrews. And now we're deciding between who's going to be Mark Andrews' backup.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Kolar because right now Kolar because his price is cheaper right now too. Mm-hmm. More athletic upside, price is cheaper right now in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Hunter L, would you move Najee for CMC in Dynasty?
Oh.
In Dynasty?
Yes. Yes, I would. I have to, because I have Christian McCaffrey as my 101 this year. So if I'm putting my stock in, I have to naturally say yes, because if I'm putting my stock in Christian McCaffrey to go back to being at the top of the charts as far as running back finishes for, as it pertains to fantasy, I have to say yes. Because Christian McCaffrey's value next year, depending on what you want to do, will be higher than Najee's.
Yeah.
Like, if you really wanted to, you could go back and get Najee for Christian McCaffrey next year plus something else if you really wanted to flip-flop on that.
And one of the things that both Nick and
yes.
I have been vocal about is monitoring running back touch workload on a year-to-year basis. And I know Najee Harris is only in year 2, but he had borderline 400 touches in year 1. That's not nothing. We've seen running backs get close to those amount of touches, get injured in every other year following that. Look at Saquon.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Look at McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey and McCaffrey
After
wasn't...
his workload, it ramped up.
Yeah, he did that 2 years into his career, or 3 years into his career. But, I mean, Najee hit the ground running with 400 touches in his first year. They've already been vocal about
playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, they've already been vocal about, tuning that back a little bit because they know it's too much for him, frankly. And that is something that you got to take into account. So, yes, Najee Harris is 2 years younger, a little bit less than 2 years younger than Christian McCaffrey. But I would rather have Christian McCaffrey despite that in Dynasty.
Yeah, in that situation, I say, yeah, give me McCaffrey.
Doesn't matter the format for me either.
I think he's going to be... Yeah, I have him. I have him as my RB1 for the 2022 season, so I would be a hypocrite if I said anything other than yes. I would move anybody, I guess, for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe not Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, but any running back, yeah.
Yeah. No, we're both CMC on that one. And Iron, I hope Von Miller works for you.
Should be good.
Sam, Hunter, I would do that if you were a piece away from a chip. There you go.
There you go.
And Will, what's happening? Kenyon Drake, question mark? I mean, what?
Well, first of all, Will's in here. First of all, what's going on, Will?
What's happening, Will?
Yeah, so he's giving me some shit because I made some comments that I did like Kenyon Drake as a super late round flyer. So apologies on your 18th round best ball pick. I don't feel that bad. Yeah, I mean, he's an $8 million dead cap hit. Some people are now out there pumping their chest saying it was obvious this would happen. I guess if $8 million dead cap hits are obvious, I understand it was a bad signing from the beginning by the Raiders and it's a new regime. So yes, from a bird's eye view, it makes sense that he's gone. It's just that I mean, Amir Abdullah and Brandon Bolden. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Giddy up.
If you saw that coming, like, I guess good for you.
Yeah,
but you cannot say that you saw Amir Abdullah being a semi-full-time role player in his age 29 season. Like, get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to fade you for that one. Nemo, CMC worth Brees, AJ Brown, and a 24 first in PPR Dynasty. No.
Keep Christian McCaffrey.
Don't go overboard, unless you're getting that. If you're getting, that, I would take Brees, AJ Brown, and the 24 first.
If I'm a contender, I'm keeping McCaffrey.
Okay.
I would take that if my team sucks, but I have Christian McCaffrey, then sure, I'll take that. But if I'm a contender, I'm keeping McCaffrey. I am.
I think I'm on the other side of that.
Yeah, Nemo, it depends, man. Depends on your roster. If I have a contender, I'm taking the best player. I'll keep the best player.
But if this move makes you a contender, because you go from having just CMC and not many other pieces to Brees Hall, AJ Brown, and then
sure,
pick in the future that you can just keep it moving down the road with.
Yeah, or you could turn right around and trade for something else.
Yeah,
that helps you this year.
I would go for that deal if you're getting Brees, AJ Brown, in the 24 first. They're pretty much regardless of situation.
If you're I only agree if you're a fringe, maybe a playoff team, like maybe you're like the 4th or 5th best team or worse. If I got a top 3 roster, I'm keeping McCaffrey.
There you go.
So I think we slightly disagree there.
But Brees, I mean, I think he's 21 still. A.J. Brown, 25.
Yeah.
And that 24 first is probably like 17 right now. So it's the dynasty forward move.
Yeah.
So I think I just got to say, hey, man.
If I want to win this year,
we all thought Brees was going to be that dude. He just went to a crappy situation, which usually happens with real good running backs that are drafted early. I would still take the package there. Gus Edwards missing opening 4 weeks. What does it mean for Dobbins and Mike Davis? We talked about this a little bit earlier. It means Mike Davis is going to get more run in the first month than we thought. But Dobbins' role should be... It might take him a few weeks to get up to speed, but like it's just going to be the Dobbins and Mike Davis show for the first few weeks.
Dobbins should be fine. And he's going to play week 1. I question if he can give you RB2 numbers right out the gate coming off that significant injury. It's a situation where he should, as long as he doesn't suffer any setbacks, he should continue to improve as the season goes along. But he's only going to be a year post-surgery week 1 and having spent a lot of time rehabbing, getting his sea legs under him, getting all the muscle memory back, all of that stuff. It's going to take a little bit of time, I think, for him to fire or go back to what reasonable expectations are for him relative to what you saw from him as a rookie. I don't think we're getting 6 yards a carry J.K. Dobbins week 1. Might be more like 4 yards a carry J.K. Dobbins week 1, which would still be good. It'd be effective enough. It wouldn't be great. It would be passable. He's probably going to take some time.
But remember, they were giving Gus Edwards enough touches to be a yearly 700-yard running back. And that was with Dobbins. That was with before or J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram.
They had Mark Ingram.
So, I mean, Mike Davis is sliding into that Gus Edwards role. And he will, and it's probably going to be a Gus Edwards role plus early in the year. So don't sleep on Mike Davis early in the year, especially if you're playing DFS. And I think he's still a viable late best ball pick.
I think the Ravens get the Jets week 1 at home. And I like to, fun little tidbit, I like to chase for week 1. I like to chase like end of year results from the season prior when making these kinds of calls. The Jets were the worst team against the run in 2021. Mike Davis might be a spectacular DFS play at the running back position. I think the Ravens are at home against the Jets. I mean, the Ravens are, especially if Zach Wilson doesn't play.
Do it.
Mike Davis, whatever his salary is, it's
make
probably
him your RB2 and just roll with it.
Or your RB3.
Yeah. Flex spot.
Yeah.
And then your next question, Greg Dulcich, they want him to be the guy. What does this mean for Albert O? And more importantly, what does this mean for the Dulcich-Jelani Woods debate? That's the important question.
Well, Jelani Woods caught a touchdown week 1 of the preseason, and Drew Ogletree is out for the year with a torn ACL. I mean, look, I will say I am officially worried about Albert O. He's getting extensive run with the second team in the preseason.
He played with the backups. They rested their starters. That is a note that I have down here too.
It is a concern.
That is a concern.
Like, there's no other way to put it. Albert O could. It feels hard to predict, but Albert O might just be in the same role that he was in when Noah Fant was in town. I don't know if it's to start out that way right away, like Greg Dulcich, week 1, you're the guy, like, let's go. I don't know. But the vibes are not good for Albert O. We pumped him a little bit. I know, John, you've been a fan of him.
Yeah, and I got to pump my brakes too.
I was open to it as well. Like, it looked like he had ascended to the starting situation.
And then Tim Patrick gets hurt, and it's just, you think, okay, Albert O's going to get even more work, but
I think he's what we've seen in the preseason, I think I got to take him off my list. He would have to fall significantly. And
I don't think he's Jonnu Smith 2021, Jonnu Smith to Greg Dulcich Dulcich is Hunter Henry. I'm not going that far. Could this tight end room look a whole lot more like the Colts did in past years with Mo Alley Cox,
Jack Doyle
being Albert O, and then Jack Doyle being Greg Dulcich? Yeah.
They had Ebron back in the day.
Right. No, I think it could be a more even split than we ever would have projected. And I think this means it makes it harder to really want to invest in either guy for year one for 2022. It makes it difficult. But if you picked up Greg Dulcich in rookie drafts, then good for you.
Maybe he fires right away.
Hey, this might be the time to sell. Just
capitalize.
When people's value gets blown out of proportion because of preseason hype and preseason news, especially with the tight end position, that takes time. You can sell him now and probably pick him up after year one for less than what you sold him for.
Sell him for a second, get him back for a third.
Yeah, get him back for 2/3. Cool. That's a win.
And for whatever it's worth, Dulcich is still listed as the tight end 2 on the team's depth chart, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, it could just be they're doing interesting concepts.
Right, they're looking at things.
Right,
they're looking at things. Coaches don't coach to win games in the preseason.
That's kind of what I think is going on with Treylon Burks. I think he missed so much of the early goings because he had the asthma issues, and now they're just running him out there with the second and third team, sometimes the fourth team, just to get
the fourth team,
just to get his legs underneath him,
get him some extended run.
Because he needs to step up his conditioning because he missed out early on, because he needs to apply all the stuff in the playbook to on the field, which is what they installed in minicamp and OTAs, which he wasn't there for. So I think the same thing is happening to Treylon Burks.
It's not great that he's playing in the second half of these games.
It's not great that he's playing in the second half of those games and doing nothing. That's the but again, you look at that and you look, it's Malik Willis scrambling.
And then who's the
Logan
Titans'
Woodside.
Right, Logan Woodside, who, to be fair to him, those Titans third stringers on the offensive line, they're bad.
Yeah.
With all due respect, Woodside's been back there with absolutely no time to throw. So it's hard to, again, it just continues to hammer the point home. I can't put any stock in statistical outputs of the preseason because there are so many variables. There's so many moving parts. I'm not going to get too high for a big game. I'm not going to get too low for a bad one.
Yeah, and speaking of getting too high for a good game, what round would George Pickens go? Asks Elout.
In redraft?
I love Pickens. I just don't know if I'm drafting him in redraft. I love him in Dynasty.
I'm drafting him in redraft. I'll draft him in the 11th or 12th round. Shit, we're getting attacked by bots.
Yeah, I got him.
Thank you.
They're just going to live on the stream. There's nothing I can do about that.
That's okay. Good to see you love chat one. I'm drafting Pickens in the 11th round. And I'll take a shot on rookie on unrealized rookie upside where he's still going 100 picks into a draft. I will draft Pickens this year.
Kenny Pickett looking like a real quarterback, and yes, it's the preseason. It kind of had me swinging that way too, because it's like, look at what Pickens is doing, and look at what Kenny Pickett is doing down the field.
Yeah,
things that Big Ben just wasn't able to do late in his career.
He just couldn't throw the ball deep.
Yeah, and like it is stock up for Deontay. It is stock up for Claypool. It is stock up for Pickens.
Claypool had a nice catch against the Jaguars. In that game. So
yeah. No, this could be a higher octane offense than we were thinking.
I'm in on Pickens, and again, to the point. Well, how much stock are you putting into preseason outputs? It's the overall vibes, and he's been, by all accounts, one of the best players in Steelers camp this offseason.
Yeah, it's not just what has happened on the field in the preseason games. He's murdering Minka Fitzpatrick and Cam Sutton on play-to-play basis in camp.
And plus just the overall body of work. You pointed out earlier in the preseason, had he not gotten injured, he's probably in the conversation for first receiver drafted.
Yeah, I said that very early on. You look in his first season, he had 700 yards plus in college. In his first season.
He led the league. Yeah, he led the league in, I think, catches, yards, and touchdowns as a rookie.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen. At Georgia. That just doesn't happen.
I mean, I regret. I have since been getting a ton of pick-ins in the 11th, 12th round of my best balls. I wish I had been in a little bit sooner. Yeah, I am drafting Pickens in redraft this year in the 11th. If he falls to the 12th, then giddy up, let's go. But 11th round, sure.
And I am just, it is part of my process, I guess. I am hesitant to draft rookies. I know that has kind of not worked out in the past few seasons because you look at Justin Jefferson, you look at Jamar Chase. So maybe that's just a sea change that I have yet to come around to, because with it being more of a passing league, some of these rookie wide receiver options do get play right away. Look at DK Metcalf getting 900 yards in his rookie year. You look at Claypool, 800 yards, 11 touchdowns in his rookie year. Like, it just it happens, and maybe I just need to come around to that more. If there was a wide receiver that I was going to be into in the late rounds, it would be Pickens. Mm-hmm. Scott Sharp, what's happening, man? 12-team PPR week 1. QB Herbert or Jackson? It's a tough choice.
Who are the Chargers playing? Both. Lamar's getting the Jets with a potentially not makeshift backfield, but a backfield that is a combination of on the mend and just like an aging vet in Davis. Who are the Chargers playing week 1? Again,
Washington.
And I'll use this as a.
They're playing Washington.
Why do I see the Raiders?
Are you looking at? I don't know.
The Chargers are playing Las Vegas week 1.
What? I'm on the third.
Was that last?
Chargers.com/schedule.
What the hell am I looking at? This says they're playing the Raiders. I think because they played Washington last year. I don't think they have Washington on the schedule this year.
Okay, I guess now I'm looking at Google, and it says the Raiders. I mean, they're gonna be forced to put up points. With Herbert, it's gonna be forced to put up points.
Yeah, I guess my first inclination is to go Herbert. I guess we'll use this as an opportunity for a quick plug, Scott, and everybody else. Once the season kicks off, we will be here on the weekends, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern for start-sit live streams. So you can get a little bit more real-time final calls from us as far as what we would prefer as far as your start-sit options. My gut is to lean Herbert. But, I mean, you're talking about two guys with top 5 upside at the position. It's like flip a coin. I would say my first inclination is to say Herbert. Lamar will put up his numbers, but in the fourth quarter, they might just be chilling on it and running the ball if they're beating the Jets handedly. Right, whereas Chargers, I feel like is more likely to be a competitive game. And both guys are at home, so that's an equalizer there.
I want to go for the shootout with the guy that just came off of a 5,000 yard season in his rookie or in his second season. So I'm going to Herbert there, even though weekly with those two guys, I might be flip-flopping between those two.
It's a flip-flop depending on the matchup, who's playing well, the situation, all that good stuff. Give me Herbert, but also as soon as week 1 of the preseason or of the regular season, which is fast approaching, Saturday, Sundays, we will have start-sit live streams to help make those final calls.
Between wide receiver 3, Thielen, and Gabe Davis, man, a few weeks ago, a month ago, I probably would have just said go be safe and roll with Thielen. Because he's probably going to be catching a touchdown.
Nick likes to joke. Play Gabe on the road against the
Nick
Rams.
likes to say Thielen is catching a touchdown right now as we speak. Probably true. But you know who else is? Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis is also like an Adam Thielen in training. As far just as like a touchdown catching machine.
He just
Gabe
catches
Davis
touchdowns.
is Adam Thielen in training, but younger, younger and in a more high octane passing offense. I'm playing Gabe Davis on the road in LA where the Rams are defending their title and they're going to come out firing. And the Bills.
And you have the Rams D. Every single time Gabe Davis scores a touchdown, it's going to impact your
Rams
opponent.
D. Yes. Play Gabe.
Yeah.
And on top of that, to the counterpoint of the Rams defending their title and coming out firing, it's Bills like 2022 revenge season. I guarantee they feel like they should have won that playoff game last year. I guarantee that's at the top of their minds. This is a motivated squad this year.
Gabe Davis is motivated to show that he deserves to be the team's wide receiver too.
He should be the team's wide receiver too.
Yeah.
Give me, and I love Thielen. I love Thielen, and I'm drafting Thielen everywhere I can. I can't say the same thing about Gabe Davis because I have significantly more shares of Thielen than I do of Gabe. That's just how the cookie has crumbled this year. Give me Gabe. If between the two for a week 1 slate and the Bills are on the road opening night, they want to make a case for themselves. They want to stamp what this season means to them. Week 1 opening night. They may not win the game. It's unquestionably one of their more difficult matchups this year, but expect them to come out swinging, to have to keep pace with a great Rams offense who opens their title defense. Yeah, all the narratives are Gabe Davis. Yeah.
I'm going to ignore the how does this affect Marlon Mack's situation question. If you're asking for a friend, tell him to come through into the chat and ask himself.
It's huge news for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's put it that way.
There you go. What's going on, CXK?
That's how I answer that question. It's massive for Amon-Ra. What's up, CXK?
Will, what are some of the biggest discrepancies between the two of you guys in your opinion on a specific player, strategy, dynasty value? Very agreeable show, so curious where you guys think differently.
I will say for
we just talked about it earlier. I'm much lower, not much lower, but significantly lower on Justin Fields.
You're lower on Justin Fields. Yeah, I feel fine about Justin Fields. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a rock solid QB2 with QB, not low end QB1, with QB1 upside just from the amount of running he's going to have to do.
And I think he's a QB2 with very little QB1 upside this year because this isn't the year for him. It's probably next year.
I'll go to another player. I have been I've been planting my flag on Kyle Pitts this year. I think he's the tight end 2 behind Kelsey. And, maybe that's a hot take compared to where everybody else has their tight end rankings.
We're closer on Pitts than you think.
Okay. I know that I feel
we had one spot difference but that's not a huge discrepancy.
Not a huge discrepancy.
But another player that comes to mind for me is Romeo Doubs. You have kind of been slamming the table for Romeo Doubs, and I kind of think it's preseason hype.
I have a little bit more optimism about Doubs just from an opportunity perspective. We talked about Christian Watson. I think he's behind the 8 ball this year. Rodgers doesn't talk guys up who he doesn't ultimately like throwing the ball to, and he certainly doesn't talk up rookies. Rodgers has been talking up Doubs this camp. I can't, unless he's lying, that ayahuasca stuff is getting to his head, or however you pronounce that.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, I don't even know, which I guess is a good thing.
Trade him.
I'm not regularly doing those types of hallucinogens or drinking them, whatever. Unless he's lying, and I'm not really sure what the motivation would be there behind that. He's been talking up his rookie. And again, Rodgers is not like one as far as like playing poker in preseason. If he likes you, he throws you the ball. But I think are much more likely to say cash out on the hype.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Romeo Doubs has looked as good as Isaiah Likely out there. Last preseason game, 3 receptions, 45 yards, 1 touchdown. The preseason game before, another touchdown, all from Jordan Love, not from Aaron Rodgers, but that is still what you want to see. in meaningless games. But keep in mind, no starters are playing. Lazard's not playing. Sammy Watkins is not playing. Randall Cobb is not playing. All are ahead of him on the depth chart. And he's showing he's a better receiver right now than Juwan Winfrey, Sal Cannella, Samori Toure, Ishmael Hyman, Danny Davis III, and an injured Christian Watson who has yet to see the field.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you do. I think the hype on Romeo Doubs is getting a little bit out of control. I think he is at best their wide receiver 3. And I think people are getting a little bit too ahead of themselves with him, especially since, Christian Watson hasn't seen the field yet. As soon as he does, he has much more upside.
Sure. I agree about that. I don't disagree with that.
I mean, the question was posed by you to me earlier in the offseason, whether or not you just trade Christian Watson for Doubs. That is one player. If we can identify a player that we do not agree on, they're out there, Will. It just so happens that for the most part, we agree on the majority of our fantasy takes.
We don't like it.
No.
We're not happy about it.
No, just happens.
And then I guess I would say as far as strategy and dynasty value and all that, John, I feel like you put a lot of emphasis on the 2023 class, acquiring 23 picks if you're anything other than maybe, say, a top 3 team in your league. I'm a little more willing if I feel like my team is in striking range, maybe not necessarily top 3. It might be a little bit more willing to sell my 23 assets. Whereas, John, I think if you had like a 5th or 6th best team, you would be holding on to your 2023 first round pick for dear life. So I would say
it depends. We're in a dynasty league where I was a contender, sold all my firsts for contending pieces, and went all in. So I mean,
you had a top 3 team. To my point, you had a top 3 team in that league, not a top 5 or 6 team.
Yes.
I'll give you the kudos of building a strong team in that. That's a point where that's a situation where it's a no-brainer. You have no use for your 23 first if you have a top 3 team with some standing power. Whereas, maybe it might be a different story if you had a top 5 or 6 team and you weren't totally sure or sold about not just this year, but your future. You would hold on to your 23 first. Whereas maybe I'm a little bit more willing to see if I can get a guy who can help me win now, for better or worse. And if I have to sell a 23 first to do it, okay, it's not the easiest pill to swallow, but I think I'm a little bit more willing as a, say, fringe contender, maybe not necessarily a top 3 team.
I'll agree with that.
Well, you'll agree in the fact that we disagree there.
Yes. Yes.
You put a lot of stock in the 23 class. I mean, and look, you're not alone in that line of thinking.
One of the reasons is, the strength of the past few draft classes has been wide receiver. And even when the strength was quarterback, that hasn't gone super well for a lot of the people thus far who have drafted quarterback. This next draft is quarterback and running back heavy. So a lot of it has to do with that. But yes, I would agree. I'm more in on the 23 class than you are, I think.
I'm sure I'll be more in next March when it's too late. So, yeah, I think I would say, and maybe this hasn't necessarily played out in reality for me yet. We also have some deadweight league mates that don't converse, so your trade opportunities are fewer.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm a little bit more willing to sell my picks in a scenario. If John was in my shoes, was in that same boat, John wouldn't sell those picks. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to, I feel like you're a little bit more likely to say, let me load up on assets in a neutral scenario where you're like, maybe I'm not the best, maybe I'm not the worst.
It also depends how, the relative age, the age of your squad, the average age of your squad. If you're a middling team, but most of your players are older versus younger, I'm going to be moving differently in both of those situations.
Sure.
So it depends. Very situational, but I would agree with the overall assessment there.
Yeah. And I'll give one more player.
And then I will too.
Okay.
But go for it.
Tua.
Yeah.
I hate Tua. I've been more, you can't stand Tua. I've been more open to the idea that Tua can and maybe should have a good season this year. I think he will. I think Tua will have maybe not like a top 15 season, but I think he will keep his job in Miami. And he'll have usable fantasy weeks this year. Maybe in Superflex. One quarterback, it might be a little tougher, but in Superflex, I think Tua will be a viable weekly Superflex option. I don't think John agrees with that.
Yeah. Like he just
no.
He just seems like he has like zero upside. Like he is just got zero upside. He just go ahead and prove me wrong, Tua.
Just lob it over to Tyreek a couple of times. He'll catch it and boost your passing numbers.
We'll see. The one other player where Nick and I just do our values perceptions do not match up at all. JaMychal Hasty. I just
Yo, you do not slander him.
Hey, Jordan Mason has straight up been better than JaMychal Hasty through two preseason games.
He didn't do nothing to you.
Whatever.
I'll leave that there.
Yeah. Cali Loco, Pearson, Indy. I'm guessing you're talking about another guy that can be a Josh Gordon and come out of relative obscurity to be a threat to lead the league.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
I'm guessing that's where that comes in. I can't get there with Pierce. Pierce is just everything we thought Drake London and we're scared Drake London would be. Everything that Drake London has proved us wrong for thinking, I think, can be attributed to Pierce.
No.
Pierce scares the shit out of me. And I am worried that he's a second-round bust.
Damn, already?
Of a wide receiver. Yeah. I'm worried. I'm not, and it's not. Nothing in camp has led me to believe this. It's just I'm still not a believer in his profile. If you look at what he did in college, he was a man amongst boys when he played. He 6'4", I believe, super fast, size speed freak. And you look at the numbers, and it just doesn't match up. He wasn't playing in the SEC. He was playing at a lesser school and just didn't dominate with his athletic traits. Now, there could be other reasons for this. His quarterback just could have been that bad. But I think that there's some causation there. I think you can't be that athletically gifted and put up those numbers on a year-to-year basis without me thinking that something is kind of missing there. Like, it's not in the cards for you to be... You're a size speed freak who can't put it together. And we've seen those guys in the NFL. We have. Denzel Mims, second-round pick, was one of those guys who did a work at the Senior Bowl and came into the league, did nothing. Guess what Alec Pierce did in the Senior Bowl? He left. He left day one. You don't remember that?
I don't.
He was just like, okay, I made my appearance. I'm out. Peace. I don't need this. Kind of weird. There's a lot of weird things with Alec Pierce. Why didn't he fire in college? It's not because he's playing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, and Velus Jones and Drake London.
Yeah.
He was playing with nobodies. He should have fired. He should have put up numbers. He just didn't. Something is... I hope he proves me wrong. I hope that every player I'm down on proves me wrong. I just worry about Pierce. He has all the opportunity in the world right now.
We wouldn't have any credibility if all we did was gas everybody up. Or, well, maybe we don't have any credibility at all. We wouldn't be able to be taken seriously. We may not be able to be taken seriously. You get what I'm saying? We can't just say nice things about everybody.
Maybe we need to take a trip down to South America and do some ayahuasca.
Yeah, I'll have my people call Aaron's people. It'll be a good time.
And you said underdog wide receiver for Pierce or Romeo Doubs. We already spoke a little bit about Romeo Doubs.
I guess, between
I'm higher on Doubs than Pierce.
Doubs' stock is higher.
Yeah, I'm higher on Doubs than Pierce.
So I guess I'd rather have Doubs because his stock is higher. So if you're like maybe kind of meh on either one, you can flip Doubs for probably more capital right now. If you wanted to.
Chuck, man, what's happening?
What's up, Chuck?
The season is almost here. Was able to kick off my 12-team dynasty league. The startup was a huge hit.
Nice.
Hey, good to hear, man.
Nice.
Good to hear.
Glad to hear that it went well. Post your team.
Yeah, man. Let us know what this team is that you think has you with a great shot for the ship. I hope.
Post your team.
Hope it does. Post it, man. CXK, Rachaad White or Brian Robinson going forward in dynasty. Rachaad White still for me.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know how much playing time he sees this year behind Leonard Fournette. Robinson might be a little bit more involved this year than Rachaad, but Rashaad's looking like a proven pass catcher. His I don't know what his juke rate is in the preseason, but it's probably pretty good. He's forcing missed tackles, so that's nice to see.
We have to remember Rachaad White comps to David Johnson and a slightly comps to a CMC.
Well, I'll temper those expectations, or I get a comparison does not equal expectations.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm not going to put too much stock into that. Just that, and again, I can only put so much stock into the preseason. But if he's making plays on tape, that has to be a feather in his cap. He's the missed tackles are he's piling them up. Rachaad White is, and he's a pass catcher. What's the long-term quarterback situation in both Tampa and Washington? I don't know. Brady might retire. Wentz, we'll see. All things equal, I'll take Rachaad.
Yeah. And that comment about comping to David Johnson and CMC is more about he's not just a first and second down runner. He is a little bit more well-rounded. This isn't saying he's going to be David Johnson or CMC.
No.
That is not what I'm saying. And when I bring up these comps, that is never what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is the utilization in basically all aspects of being a running back in 2022, rushing and catching the ball, are more in Rachaad White's wheelhouse than they are in Brian Robinson's.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Rachaad White. Big Truz, is it smart to pick up Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers in the first round, 8th overall? Depends what your format is, man, and throw your format in the chat.
Regular
ESPN Fantasy Football 12-man league. No Superflex.
I assume regular means one quarterback. So no. I would take Josh Allen in the 3rd round if you want the best, if you know you want the QB1, or if you know you want the best quarterback off the board, that's just a part of your strategy. If someone takes him in the 1st round, that is just not a good use of resources.
We've seen it year in, year out where somebody drafts Patrick Mahomes in the 1st round. Or,
it'll be Josh Allen this year, or Lamar Jackson a couple of years ago. Maybe just Josh Allen this year.
Honestly, the smart pickup, and we've talked about it pretty much all offseason, is to go Kyler Murray in the 5th to 6th round.
Yeah.
Just wait, stock up on good players in those early to mid rounds, and once those middle rounds hit, get Kyler Murray, who has top 3, top 1 upside, who everybody's sleeping on, and then stack him with an easy stack in Marquise Brown or DeAndre Hopkins and keep it moving. You can even triple up and get a Zach Ertz late too. I love Josh Allen, but all else equal, I'm waiting and going Kyler Murray and picking up some stacks. I am not in on Aaron Rodgers this year. I know Hunter's going to kick my ass for that. But Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is more of a QB2 than a QB1 this year. Because of the weapons.
It's just a pass-catching group that leaves a lot to be desired, and I think Rodgers is going to do what he has to do to help the Packers win games because he's Aaron Rodgers. But I as it pertains to Rodgers, I worry that offense is going to be moving through the running backs, flowing through the running backs, which could lead to catches for both of them, and I think it will.
Yeah.
Especially Jones, but we might be seeing a situation where Rodgers is more like his 2019 year, I think, when he was like the QB 15 or 16, I think is what it was. We might see something like that. So, No, I'm certainly not drafting Rodgers in the first round. I'm not drafting Rodgers in the first 8 rounds.
Unless he becomes an extreme value, which neither of us are projecting because somebody out there is going to be higher on the back-to-back MVP.
It's Aaron Rodgers,
right?
Yeah.
Like he's going to get drafted before I am comfortable drafting him, straight up. And I feel like Nick feels the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nemo, you got the deep dive into who our Josh Gordon comps are.
We went in.
Congratulations. Scott Sharp, Josh Gordon couldn't happen again. Calvin Ridley has entered the chat. Hey.
Ridley could be that dude, I guess, but it's just a different conversation entirely, you know?
Yeah. And Nemo's asking Truz what the format is.
Always a good thing to include the format just to help us out and figure it, because especially as it pertains to quarterbacks, can you start 2 of them? Because then if you start 2 of them, then Josh Allen doesn't last to 8th overall.
No, then Josh Allen's getting first picked within the first 2 picks.
Right, but in one quarterback, I'm not taking him before the 3rd round, and even then, I'm not like in love with doing that just because of the allocation of resources.
And Riley, tight end 11 ADP is different than wide receiver 1 ADP target hog response. Our wide receiver 1 being a top 12 wide receiver.
This was about Allen Robinson a little while ago.
Yeah, no, we agree.
Yeah.
And Nemo helping out. Thank you. You can most likely get Allen with your 2nd pick. No need for the either. I mean, honestly, early 3rd.
If you really want him, then I guess your 2nd round pick, but I can't in one quarterback, I just can't advocate for that. I just can't advise doing that. There's running backs and wide receivers in the 2nd round that I want to take a chance on. I'll get my quarterback later.
Yeah, and Rojo says, everything's fine with Mike Davis and J.K. Dobbins until the Ravens draft Bijan.
Hey, they could.
I mean, don't put that
would be an unbelievable landing spot for him.
No, I see. This is why I'm off on the Tyler Algier hype. I think Bijan goes to a team like that.
To Atlanta, they might have the first pick.
Yeah, they trade back because maybe Desmond Ridder looks better than we all thought he was going to be because he's looking pretty good thus far in the preseason.
You still take Bryce Young if you have the
you would hope
CJ
so,
Stroud.
But that's kind of considering running backs don't get picked in the 1st round. If they got a high pick in the 2nd round, I don't know. I'm not willing to talk where Bijan is going to be going quite yet. All I know is Bijan's going to be a dude, so watch out. But for the most part,
if you're worried about that, and if you're worried about that, and you have Dobbins in Dynasty, wait for him to fire like week 6 or 7, and then see if you can trade him for a 1st round pick.
There you go. Probably more than the first too.
I would think so.
And Callie, you say you're going Najee over
McCaffrey.
Young and strong, and I like the future of Pickens and Pickett. Najee didn't get used too much in college.
I guess I'm just going off of what I think will be, or what I think should still be, a fantasy cheat code in McCaffrey.
Oh, and even in standard, I went back and just looked at just to see if it was just CMC doing crazy things in PPR. Even in standard leagues, in the years where he was going off, he was averaging a touchdown more than the other players around him. Check this.
And he's fresh.
Bot is back.
The bots are back. They're out in full force.
Love it. But no, Najee, again, he put on 14 pounds. Now he's in the 235 to 240 range. Is somewhat of an athletic freak. But, I mean, you look at even what, Derrick Henry was doing outside of what he did in 8 games last year. When Derrick Henry was doing crazy things in 2020. You know who was a better fantasy points per game running back, despite only playing, I think, 7 games that year? CMC.
With McCaffrey, yeah.
Even when CMC has been injured, if you look at the points per game, fantasy points, he's doing better than everybody else in the league. Even if he's only playing for 7 games. Najee did what he did last year on insane volume that has to go down. And he averaged 3.9 yards per carry last year. Not to take anything away from the dude, but he that's not electric. He got it done because he had 370 touches, rushes, and
I think he had 381 total touches. And if you include the playoffs, he had 400 touches.
Yeah. And that's
going to be hard to duplicate, and it's going to be,
hard to stay healthy after that, too.
It's good. Right. Running backs are, they're highly volatile, especially coming off heavy workloads like that. And, you could make you could say, well, McCaffrey's been hurt for 2 years straight. Well, he's also fresher than Najee.
Yeah. That first year back from injury, it was 4 games. The second year, it was 7. He should, if you're looking at that, he should be playing for 12 games, which is what you've been getting out of Dalvin Cook for the last few seasons. I would still take 12 games of CMC than 17 games of Najee.
Yeah.
Because CMC gives you that much of a... And Hunter, y'all both hesitated when saying you'd take CMC over Najee. Why? I'm just trying to do what's best for my team.
I said, I don't.
Well, Najee's good.
Right, that's the thing. It's not like it's a. Yeah, it's
but
not
CMC
like a
is good
of like,
and not old. He's better and not old.
It's not like it was like James Conner for CMC or Leonard Fournette for CMC. Like you're talking about a top 2 or 3. Back. Yeah, you're talking about at his position at least a top 3 dynasty player. So it is something that you wanted to take a second to make sure I gave it the appropriate answer and not a knee-jerk reaction,
Yeah, the knee-jerk reaction is just to say, yo, it's Najee.
For Dynasty, he's younger. Look at what he did last year, right?
2 years younger. Look what he did but then you got to dig into it. Then the better fantasy points per game running back by far is CMC. And we don't predict injury. So if both of these players stay healthy, CMC should have a much higher ceiling than Najee.
I think so. I know Iron's a fan of Najee, so.
So is Cali. Nobody is hungrier than Najee. Yeah. Good young man. Saw him play growing up here in Cali, so I'm biased, I guess.
Yeah, hey, we're not rooting against Najee.
Not at all.
I'll put my eggs in the Christian McCaffrey basket based on what we have to keep in mind, and admittedly what is incredibly difficult to predict, is that the ebb and flow of the NFL is real as fuck, right? Guys they have peaks and valleys throughout their career all the time, and that's not to say that Najee will. It's just based off of trends that we can look back on over the course of NFL history. Players that shoulder significant workloads one year have a difficult time replicating that the next year. There are a few outliers, like Derrick Henry is, I think he carried it 400 times 3 straight years.
Yeah.
There are outliers, but generally speaking, guys who shoulder significant workloads year 1, year A, it's hard to replicate that in year B.
The only players that have done that,
the offense changes,
is LaDainian Tomlinson and Derrick Henry, are the only backs who went over 400 yards and then didn't have a relative dip in efficiency and value the following season. If you're betting on Najee being that, you're betting on an outlier. The one thing that we can say about Christian McCaffrey is in 2019, he was putting up 7 more fantasy points than the next productive running back on a fantasy points per game basis. In 2020, CMC, he only played in 3 games, but he was putting up 5 more fantasy points than the next most productive running back on a points per game basis, which was Dalvin Cook that year, who finished RB3 because he played 14 games. And in 2021, that it's a little bit more difficult to compare because Christian McCaffrey got 5 touchdowns vultured by Sam Darnold on the goal line before he got injured, which is that's not going to happen again. That's a clear outlier. But if he got that, I would bet that his fantasy numbers would be better on a per game basis, or at least on par with Derrick Henry.
Even if he gets 2 of those scores instead of
he only played for 7 games. He missed out on 5 touchdowns.
No, I just meant like when Sam Darnold was leading the league in touchdown runs. Like even if that course corrected to like 2 scores to McCaffrey, then you're which would be much more the norm.
Then you're talking about
the cheat code difference that he is.
Right.
And it's not like he's 28 or 29.
He's 26.
He's 25.
26.
26? Okay. Still, my point stands. He's not aging out yet.
Yeah, and he's still by far the best weapon on that offense.
Yeah.
By far. I love DJ Moore. But
I love DJ Moore too, but
excuse me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, I just want to see the most electric football player I've ever seen back on the field and healthy for 17 games. That's me believing in CMC. I got to put my money where my mouth is. CMC over Najee. He is the most electric fantasy running back I've ever seen. Most electric football player I've seen on the field.
I got to give that to Tomlinson, but
yeah, and I wasn't watching football back then.
You weren't there yet.
To me, it's CMC. He's that guy for me.
Yeah.
I wish I would have seen Tomlinson play. My only exposure to Tomlinson has been the highlights on YouTube and playing Madden 07 on PS2.
That man made a mockery. He made it look like child's play.
You know who was a higher rated running back than him in that Madden? I think it was Clinton Portis.
Portis had some seasons, but he was never... Clinton Portis was real solid when he was in Denver. When he went to Washington, it went downhill for him, as it tends to happen with a lot of players. LaDainian Tomlinson, though, I was like, this man is a video game. Yeah, he was fun.
Callie, you say you like the running back Tyler Batty in Baltimore. Thoughts on him? We talked about him a little bit earlier.
Yeah, generally it's like he might benefit in a situation where he can get some third down work and snaps. The problem is the Ravens just don't throw the ball to running backs. Now, that narrative could change this year. Ravens have a somewhat thin pass catching group. It's just that it's not a part of Greg Roman's offensive philosophy, or it hasn't been to this point. He gets a slight uptick for sure. Gus Edwards is going to miss the first month of the season, but he's behind Dobbins and Mike Davis for snaps and touches to start the year. He's an interesting player. He's got the talent. He's got the speed. That's good. He's just he's a little buried.
But hey, second contract for a guy like that. Those types of guys work out. You see pass catching running backs really, take the league by storm. I'm not going to put it in those words, but at least come into their own. 25, 26, 27. Look at Austin Eckler. Took him a few years. Look at J.D. McKissick. Took him 5 years. You look at Nyheim Hines. It took him into his second contract to really start to realize his potential there. You look at Dion Lewis and James White. They didn't start out.
Dion Lewis was a bit of a late bloomer.
Dion Lewis was on the Eagles.
He started on the Eagles, yeah.
And was on the practice squad for a little bit. And then got picked up by the Patriots, and Tom Brady turned him into an all-star.
A few years in, yeah.
Like it just takes pass catching, those more diminutive pass catching running backs take some time. J.D. McKissick was on the Seahawks, and it took him 5 years to get onto a Washington team that treated him like a true passing down option.
Where he was a consistent threat.
Even going back to like Chris Thompson, took him some years before he was doing things on the then Redskins. It just takes these running backs time. So if you are in a rookie draft and you pick up Tyler Batty with your last pick, then you have a taxi squad you can stash him on for a few seasons.
You just plan to stash him in Dynasty.
Worst ideas out there.
I wouldn't call him a late flyer in redraft.
No. But Alex, you picked up Alberto and Dulcich during your rookie draft to hedge. I don't hate that.
I mean,
I don't hate that.
I mean, that's fine.
Locked up
now
Russell Wilson's tight end.
Yeah, whoever works out.
And the other option that doesn't work out is young enough where you can probably trade him at some point. Scott Sharp. Hey, you're welcome, man.
Hey,
you're welcome.
No problem.
Gabe Davis is for real. Watch out. You also have Mike Williams, Cortland Sutton, Kyle Pitts on this team. Woo. Okay.
They gave you an F?
How?
These influencers are not very influential.
That is...
I'll call them out.
Any team that has Mike Williams, Cortland Sutton, Gabe Davis, Adam Thielen, and Kyle Pitts on their team and calling it a F or a D...
Yeah, it's an F or a D.
Disregard that shit, bro. That's the dumbest thing I've heard.
It's an F or a D for them for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, get out of here. It would at least be a B for me.
Can we join those influencers drafts and put their asses to shame? I'll call them out.
Yeah,
terrible. That's a terrible analysis. I think all those guys are going to be just fine this year. I will admit. Okay, this also alludes to Will's question about where we differ. John prefers Sutton. I will say I prefer Jeudy between the two Broncos receivers. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about guys that we disagree on, but still expect they should be both wide receiver 2s or better. I mean, and that's the worst thing I can say about that collection of guys.
Yeah, no, and even if I am wrong and Sutton just isn't that guy and it's all Jeudy, if you have Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, and Adam Thielen and Kyle Pitts, and then Cortland Sutton on your bench, I'm still not mad.
You're fine.
Yeah, disregard that grade, dude. You did fine. More than fine. That looks like very good building blocks at the wide receiver and tight end position.
Sounds like influencers who are trying to build themselves up with the team. I'd be curious to know what the influencers, how they graded each other.
Yeah, that's wild.
Great job drafted David Montgomery in the 5th, bro. That's my impression of these influencers. No, there's no way. I like that team a lot. Rojo agrees with you about Pierce, though. Turned him into a 24 first. That's pretty good.
That is very good. Hey, if anybody out there can do that, then go for it, for sure. But yeah, I've stated my case on Pierce. I hope he proves me wrong, but I'm not very high on his NFL prospects.
There you go.
Nemo, we did answer that already.
Yeah, we did, and Scott actually helped us out. Appreciate it with kind of like, and he said he's not contending down there. Okay, yeah, if you're not contending, take the package. Yeah. If you're not competing, then take the package. Yes, that's where I agree. My only thought process there was, if you are contending, if you're a top 3 team, keep McCaffrey. But if you are admitting that you're not, then yeah, take the package with it.
And JXC, what's happening, man? And thank you, Scott Sharp, for answering Nemo. But would you guys rather flex Waddle or Javonte Williams in a PPR league for flex? I would rather Javonte.
First of all, Jay, are you a cross country runner? Just throwing it out there.
I didn't even catch that. You would
run a little cross. Let me know. Talking to a super washed up runner over here.
Nick at one point was the fastest man alive.
Wrong. In PPR for your flex for week 1. Who are the Dolphins playing?
It doesn't matter to me. I'd just rather have Javonte.
You're saying Javonte? They're playing. They're at home against New England. I'll be honest that the full PPR gives me some pause to just automatically say Javonte, and you're talking to a big Javonte stan right here. Jay, in case you missed it when I mentioned it a little earlier,
and he says, yes, sir, he is cross country.
Let's go. We host start sit live streams during the season, Saturdays 6 p.m. Eastern, Sundays 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yep.
International games permitting.
And then we still have our Tuesday and Thursday streams as well, and our Wednesday stream for the members if you choose to become one. So
as it pertains to the
all week,
one.
But we do
as it
have
pertains to the week 1 question
specific.
I would say, we got a lot of time before we got to start or figure out our week 1 lineups, right? You know that. Come back. Well, you'll get a more definitive answer from us. It might be different. John sounds like he's a little bit more locked in on Javonte. I have pause because of the full PPR. I think Waddle's got a chance week 1. I like to follow week 1 trends when it comes to, I like to follow trends from last season, from the season prior, when trying to figure out what I want to do for week 1. Kind of feeling Waddle in a full PPR. But we can give you a more definitive answer in a couple of weeks when it's actually time to make that call. But I do think if John is saying automatically Javonte, I would say that we are a little bit at odds.
I think Javonte can catch passes too.
Javonte can catch passes.
Has a higher upside in an offense with Russell Wilson, is a little bit safer, I believe. And I'm just not a fan of Tua. It just comes back to that.
I know you're not a fan of Tua. I'm a little bit more of a believer in Tua.
Tua's wide receiver 1 was Waddle, and there were no changes to the offseason makeup of this team, or the makeup of this team in the offseason, then I would say Waddle, no question. But because they brought in all these players. And because I think Tua is going to be pressed to utilize these weapons they brought him in to use. And I think it's hard to say that Waddle is going to be any sort of an afterthought. I do not believe that. But he's going to play second fiddle. And that's something that we haven't seen yet. We have not seen a Waddle playing second fiddle to anybody. And Javonte is listed as... I know there's been a lot of Melvin Gordon talk. Javonte is listed as the starter.
And it's probably a much better matchup. Seattle is expected to not be good pretty much anywhere this year. So that includes on defense.
And they're going to get up by a ton of points and run out the clock with Javonte and Melvin Gordon.
I guess I had some pause, but I guess I'll give the nod to Javonte in what should be the better matchup. Russell Wilson homecoming, right? The Broncos are going to be the Seahawks will be fired up to play that game, but so will
Geno Smith and Drew Lock are not running up the score on the Denver Broncos to the point where it takes Javonte out of the game. Javonte by the second half is just gonna be touching the ball every other play. I think that's what's in store for Javonte week 1.
Yeah. But come on back for a more definitive answer week 1, and good luck this season, bro.
Absolutely, man.
Run some PRs.
What's that?
Personal record. That's a PR is a personal record, personal best. You're always getting better. It's you against the clock. It's not you against anybody else. Just you against the clock.
Got you.
If you run 1 second faster this week than you did last week, you got better. So
there you go.
Yeah. Boom.
And Hunter, sorry, man. It's gonna happen.
We're trying to twist it as positively as we can.
It's not every day, just Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and
yesterday
Thursdays.
I didn't say anything bad about Aaron.
And he seems like a real cool guy to go down and sip on some psychedelics with in South America. I'm
going to South America with him if I get the chance.
Yeah, but drafting him in fantasy this year, no. And I've been a fan. I have him on my keeper league team last year. won the ship. I love Aaron Rodgers. My second favorite team, Green Bay Packers. But not this year. He's not going to.
I mean, he's a baller. Like we'll keep in mind. Packers over under 12 wins or say 11 and a half wins. I'll take the over. I believe in Green Bay as far as winning games, which as a fan is what you want to be most in, or what you care about the most. I just don't know if the numbers are going to be there from a fantasy perspective. That doesn't mean he's not going to be delivering wins for the Packers.
Absolutely.
Apples and oranges.
And Theo.
Nemo's looking at Lamar or Kyler. Yeah. Fourth round, I would take Lamar in the fourth if I ended up getting Andrews. Otherwise, I'm going to try and wait till the fifth.
Then get Kyler.
And if I miss, then I get Kyler.
Then that's a great consolation prize.
Yeah, I'll take that as a consolation prize.
And Theo, you just picked up Sam Howell. Worth the keep? Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a better keep than Matt Corral is right now.
Yeah.
Just by nature of that, he's healthy and has done some things in some preseason games.
Bailey Zappi, Carson Strong's probably better.
Oh yeah.
Better than those two.
The only people that are beating him out right now in value are Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Malik Willis.
Yeah. Hang on to a decent stash. Washington's long-term situation at the position is very much unsettled.
And they could take the cheap option and go with Howell. They have been in a franchise that has taken the cheap option at QB every year since RG3 and Kirk Cousins. They've cheaped out at quarterback ever since.
Yeah.
So they could continue that trend.
They could.
Running with Sam Howell in 2023.
They could. Real quick. Appreciate all these likes, everybody. That helps us out, so thank you.
Much appreciated. Where we at now?
Jay's rethinking his life because you've both
I'm just looking at where we're at
Christian
on the likes.
McCaffrey.
Damn, all right. Cool. Thank you, y'all.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Jay's got McCaffrey and Najee in one league. Hey, so you don't have to think. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I mean you're
in the back.
Set at running back.
Yeah, sit in the back, have a smoke.
Yeah,
don't have a smoke. You have a season.
If you have to choose between those two,
McCaffrey.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't and you have them both on your roster, I mean, great.
Enjoy.
Roll with it.
Enjoy. It's nice.
Chuck Mann, tiered scoring, half PPR, one
tight end premium.
Yep. Superflex, Kelsey, CD, Debo, Aaron Jones, Fournette, DK Metcalf, Alan Lazard, Chase Edmonds, Jameis Winston. Bench.
Yeah, this is the Dynasty squad.
Yeah, Spiller, Zamir White, Isaiah Spiller, Zamir White, Jalen Tolbert, Chris Olave, Irv Smith, Isaiah Likely, and Jelani Woods.
Nice.
Very good squad.
Hell yeah.
Very good squad.
So you only start one quarterback, right? So you're fine with
Winston. It says Superflex, but he's starting Kelsey
it does say Superflex.
Wait,
where's that? Okay, hang on. Where's the second quarterback? I missed the Superflex thing. Okay, yeah, Chuck. Where's the? I hope there's a second quarterback. I hope Winston's not your QB1, and I don't know who your QB2 is, but that would be the only thing.
But I mean, CD, Debo, DK Metcalf,
are there, but
Lazard,
Jalen
Tolbert, Olave, great wide receivers, Aaron Jones, Fournette, Chase Edmonds, Isaiah Spiller, Zamir White, set up well for the future at running back, and you have two bona fide guys right now. But you need more than Winston.
If you need a quarterback, I would say maybe try to sell high on Debo and get yourself a good quarterback.
Yeah.
That would be my move. Shop Debo for a quarterback. Like a good one, not like a random one. Like a good because Debo can
top
fetch
12 quarterback.
Top 7. Debo should be able to fetch you that.
Yeah.
Let people look at his numbers last year and his durability last year and get yourself you're not gonna maybe get Herbert or Lamar, but get yourself like. I would start the conversation with Burrow, and maybe maybe move down to like Dak or whatever.
I mean, yeah, Dak. You got CD Stack. You got Jalen Tolbert. Maybe Dak is the guy that you kind of shoot for, but shoot for a little bit higher first
pick as well. Yeah, shoot a little bit higher first, but then Debo could fetch it.
Or maybe like Dak and an upgrade elsewhere.
Yeah,
something like that.
That would be it.
Big trust. Najee isn't CMC or the King or even Saquon when healthy, though.
Nope.
Let's be real. Najee shouldn't be a top 4 to 5 running back on a new QB Steelers offense, but people will reach for him. I agree with everything you're saying, bro.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the volume should be there in some capacity, but again, it's tough to trust running backs the year immediately after carrying a significant workload. It just is. The trend is not in Najee's favor.
Now, the Steelers do run out one running back until they die. Like, that is what they do.
That's since under Tomlin, they are one of the few teams that still utilize a workhorse back. And so Najee will be that if he's on the field.
If there is a threat for another 400 touch season from anybody not named Derrick Henry, it's gonna be Najee.
It is Najee, but can he do it? He would have to buck some trends,
and
which he could.
Don't be afraid to invest in the handcuff then.
Which would be, I think, Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I don't know.
Sounds
if it's
like he's jumped Snell. He's jumped McFarland. It's not Mateo Durant.
Jeremy McNichols is on IR. Master Teague was he waived injured?
I believe so, yeah.
Or just on IR, one of those two. So yeah, keep an eye on Jaylen Warren for sure.
Especially if you have Najee. But
Hunter, you can blame us if CMC doesn't work out. But there's going to be a lot of people to blame if anybody advocating for. There's a lot of people advocating for Christian McCaffrey again. Lots of people are going back to that well. But yeah, swing for the fences, bro.
Hey, just go back and look at his fantasy points per game.
Always swing for the fences.
When he's been in the league, it's head and shoulders above everybody outside of last year, where there were some weird circumstances with Sam Darnold taking away 5 touchdowns from him in the red zone over a 5-game span.
Yeah.
CMC is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
That's pretty damn good.
Speaking of another phenomenal running back, Steven Action Jackson.
Yeah, that guy I feel like it was short-lived, but it was excellent.
It was not short-lived, man.
Oh, he had no, I'm sorry. I was thinking of somebody else. No, he had 7 years.
No, he was the first guy that I saw that continuously just put up numbers after numbers after numbers after numbers and didn't fall off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, they gave him
of over 1,000 yards rushing.
Who was I thinking of? I don't even know. No, he had sustained success. Yeah, he was big time.
And biggest memory from
terrible teams.
On terrible team, those Rams teams back in the day.
Those Rams teams stunk.
Wasn't he on the Falcons later on too?
At the end of his career, and I don't even remember which. I don't think it was Was it their Super Bowl? I don't think it was their Super Bowl season. I don't remember. But he was on the Falcons for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, but he was a favorite of mine in the Madden PS2 mini games. Did y'all ever play mini
rushing attack or whatever?
Attack? Yeah, but
I mean that's
Steven Jackson was one of the guys that I consistently. Him and Cadillac Williams.
Oh yeah.
He was a guy. Will, have you guys changed your stance on Drake London? Give us your new top 6 if you were drafting a rookie draft today. I know that I can say this for certain. We have both changed our stances on Drake London. And I don't feel like I'm putting words into Nick's mouth when I say this. We both changed our stances on Drake London. And it really started with me just a few days before our rookie draft when you picked Drake London 102. Will. I mean, now the new top 6 to me If I was doing a rookie draft today, Breece Hall, Drake London. How else can you put it any other way? You drafted the right guy there.
Yeah, London would have to be the second overall pick. I would still take Breece. I mean, in Superflex, Pickett's certainly making a case for himself to have been drafted earlier.
In Superflex, you got to start thinking about him at 103. You at least have to start thinking about him there.
Pickett or
Pickett, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I might take Pickett. Well, I mean, I don't know if I could. I can't. Again, I think I would still take Pickett, maybe like 106, 107. I think I would still take a shot on some of these skill guys. Because we have to remember, Pickett looks great, but Pickett looks great against third and fourth strainers.
Yes.
Trubisky is the one who's running against the starters.
But
keep that in mind.
It is at the most important position in Superflex. So,
sure.
Yes, he's doing it against lesser talents, but
I think I would still take London over Pickett in Superflex.
Okay, well, for number 3, yeah, I mean, Breece Hall, Drake London for me, regardless of whatever. And then for me, 3, I mean, it's got to be Chris Olave. To me, it has to be.
Olave and Wilson. I guess I would go that like 3-4. I'm not off Wilson. I know that he's the wire.
My 3 is Chris Olave. My 4 is George Pickens.
Well, yeah, he's
then comes Garrett Wilson, and then comes Treylon Burks, and then comes Kenneth Walker, and then you're getting into Jameson Williams, Sky Moore, and stuff. And in 2 QB, it would probably be Kenny Pickett for me.
Willis
fourth
and
or
Ritter
fifth pick.
knock down guys like, maybe starting with JMO.
Yeah, Jameson Williams takes a hit from where I was drafting him before. Sky Moore takes a hit from where I was drafting him before. George Pickens rises up.
George Pickens is a riser for sure.
Isaiah Pacheco is top 3 for sure.
Top 1.
Isaiah Likely too. You got to throw first rounder. But no, all jokes aside, yeah, I mean it's got to be Breece for me, then London, then Olave, then Pickens, in Superflex, then Pickett and Garrett Wilson.
Then I would still go Wilson. I still believe in Wilson. I know he's been quiet.
It's Garrett Wilson, then Treylon Burks. I'm not all the way out on Treylon Burks.
No, I'm not either. But you can't draft him top 6 right now.
He'd be my 6th guy.
In one quarterback, yeah.
In
Superflex, he maybe falls to 7 or 8.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, the narrative has shifted on London. I mean, the opportunity is huge. That's the thing. The opportunity is enormous.
And, I mean, Ritter looks like a better passer than I was ever going to give him credit for before coming into the league.
Ritter's probably going to play, but if the Falcons' record stinks, which is likely, and we've seen the beginning of their, I don't expect the win-loss they're not going to get wins to start the season. They have, of the rookie quarterbacks, Atlanta has the least to lose. They're not trying to win this year. Willis and Pickett both ended up in situations where their teams are going to be competing. Ritter might see the field by week 8.
Shit, I think it's
I think
it's sooner than that.
6. They might just say, screw it. Let's just see what the rookie
by the
can
time
do.
Goodwin is coming back, I think we're going to see Ritter in there. There is 0 upside with playing Mariota.
Yeah, Mariota gets maybe 4 games, 5 games, and then if the Falcons are 2 and 3, 1 and 4, they might just pull the plug and say, worst case scenario, Ritter proves he's not the guy. Best case scenario, Ritter proves he's worth day 2 draft capital or a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, best case is Ritter becomes Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, all right.
Worst case is he's basically relegated to backup by year 2.
So, but as it pertains to London, it could drop the quality of targets. Again, good preseason play means absolutely nothing for your regular season outlook.
But he's the best they have at the wide receiver
but
position.
outside of Kyle Pitts, I mean, he should see 100 targets.
Yeah, he should see more than that. Honestly, that team is bad. They're going to be playing from behind.
They're going to be. I just don't know I don't know how often they're going to throw. That's why. I don't know if he sees 120 targets just because I don't know how often. I don't know if they're going to get that many opportunities. 100 though, he can get.
Well, for what it's worth, and again, preseason doesn't matter a whole lot, but Ritter did not run the ball once this past preseason game. He made a point to stick in the pocket and be a pocket passer.
Work on some stuff.
Right.
Yeah, no, which is good. That's exactly when you need him to be doing that type of stuff.
So it's just a good thing to see him do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I gotta raise up Drake London more.
Yeah, London's got to be rated higher as soon as this season.
Yeah.
I took him in a best ball as my wide receiver 5 recently, and I was.
It's not a bad best ball pick.
Yoink! I'll take that. And Theo, we did get to Sam Howell. Yeah, hold him. He's one of the he's like 4th or so as far as rookie quarterbacks stock up, but he's looking better than some other guys. Your Carson Straughns, your Bailey Zappies, Matt Corral obviously is out for the year. So yeah, absolutely hang on to Howell.
And dislike your running backs. You got Chase Edmonds, Ramondre Stevenson,
it's a little
Khalil Herbert, Zamir White, Jamal Williams, and Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, it's
a little thin.
But that's what happens when you go Pitts and Mike Williams,
attack wide receivers heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just what happens, and you should be able to fill out a
You can start Edmonds and Ramondre week 1. Edmonds and Ramondre are your week 1 starters, and like in a 0 RB strategy where you're starting anchor after anchor at wide receiver plus Kyle Pitts, that's fine. Edmonds in full PPR is I love that.
And Stevenson's getting all the PPR hype. Herbert should be the PPR option. He's not playing on special teams in camp, so there's that. Jamal Williams is the PPR option there. Zamir White definitely has upside. Isaiah Pacheco definitely has upside based off where you drafted him. He could be the Chiefs RB2 / goal line guy. I mean, that's where everything is trending right now for Isaiah Pacheco. So your running backs core is definitely underrated by them. By whoever was drafting you or grading your draft. Because Edmund should be an RB2. Stevenson should be an RB2 / flex.
Right.
The rest of your guys should be RB3 flex plays, depending on the week. And you should be able to, with your roster, piece together good weekly lineups every week. You should. Will they be stellar from the running back position? No, but that's not the makeup of your team, and that's okay. 12-team PPR, you'll be all right.
You'll be fine.
Cali Loco, tight end draft strategy, standard 12-team half PPR. What's your cutoff for value? Schultz or better to go with the late options? In standard, since it's not PPR,
or it says half PPR.
Oh, it's
like I think he means like a regular. I think he means like a regular 12-team half PPR league. I think that's what he means. But half PPR.
If I'm not getting a top 3 option, I'm waiting altogether. That has been my stance. If I'm not getting Kelsey, Andrews, or Pitts, I am waiting until the late rounds. So I'm probably going to be out on a Schultz.
Probably.
My cutoff is Kittle.
Yeah. At that point, I'm looking for if I miss on Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, Waller, I'll throw Kittle in there too. I'm punting on the middle rounds unless one of those dudes falls. If they fall 15 20 spots past their ADP, which is probably not going to happen, but let's say they do, then okay, sure, now you got an argument because it's everyone's got a good everyone is a value at everyone can be a value at some point, but if not, I'm likely punting and looking for guys with strong touchdown upside attached to good offenses. Keep an eye on Irv Smith's health, but he's an option. Keep an eye on Robert Tonyan. He might not be ready week 1, but he's got a chance to see. Yeah, lots of opportunity attached to Aaron Rodgers with some touchdown upside. Gerald Everett, touchdown upside attached to Justin Herbert. Hayden Hurst, touchdown upside attached to Joe Burrow. These are all bottom of the barrel guys, but there's a good chance that one of these dudes gives you 70% of what, a Dalton Schultz might give you, or 65%.
If you like me and Rojo think that Alec Pierce isn't going to be all that much in Indy, Mo Alley Cox. With the last time we saw a productive tight end in Indy, it was Eric Ebron being the de facto number 2 target for Andrew Luck behind T.Y. Hilton on that team. If there's going to be a comparison for that this year, it's Mo Alley Cox being the number 2 target for Matt Ryan across from Michael Pittman. Mm-hmm. That can happen. So there are a ton of options late. Tyler Higbee being forgotten as a low-end TE1 on a team that just replaced their wide receiver 2 for the 3rd time in a calendar year.
Yep.
Now, we like Allen Robinson a lot, but Tyler Higbee could be in line for a few more targets, especially earlier in the year when they're working on that rapport. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of late round options I would rather have than Schultz, even though I'm not down on Schultz. Should get a ton of opportunity this year. I would just rather. It's the cost.
Yeah, it's just
Schultz was a great pick when you were getting him last year before the season started.
Round.
Right. Look for that again. Don't chase him now that he's in the 6th.
Right.
Hunter Baker got lucky. Matt Corral went down for the year. Matt Corral is the QB1 next year. Book it.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see how that plays out.
Oh, Chuck also has Brady in that dynasty team. Okay. Brady and Winston. All right. Okay.
That's
fine. You're gonna need a QB3 sooner than later though, with Brady being 45 and I don't see one listed on your bench.
Good thing next year in 2023, it is a good year to pick up a quarterback.
It's a good quarterback class going into next season. But I guess my first thought was bye weeks this year, and potential for injury to maybe Jameis, who is. And
if you can catch anybody sleeping and pick up a Malik Willis, who has looked better and better in these preseason games, and has a chance to start over. I mean, Ryan Tannehill might be picked or kicked off the team after this year. So Malik Willis could really start next year. And we've seen him have lots of dual threat eligibility there in the preseason. And yeah, we did touch on Sam Howell. He's still a hold.
Yep.
And should you keep Corral on the IR spot for the year as well? Yeah, don't outright cut him unless you absolutely need to. If you have an IR spot, utilize it. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. If it turns out like a player of maybe more significance to your team and your future you need to put there, then see if you can turn Corral into a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, there are very few quarterbacks I'm just outright cutting.
Yeah.
At all. They would have to be, they're not playing in the preseason, Carson Strong. It would have to be 2 quarterbacks are playing over them in the preseason for me to think, I don't know if I should be rostering this guy. It would have to be, the Vikings trading for Nick Mullins for a 7th round pick or something like that, to relegate Kellen Mond to the backup to the QB3 again because the team doesn't trust him because he's throwing 2 ints in a preseason game. Those are the situations where I'm cutting a quarterback. If a quarterback is getting play and then gets injured and I have an IR spot, I'm not cutting him. If they're not getting play in the preseason at that point, then you got to start looking at your options. And yeah, Jackson did fall off in ATL, but he was a beast for the Rams. And
as that tends to happen,
And this was back when running backs were getting real play year after year after year after year. So, I mean, it had to happen at some point. He was one of the most consistent backs of his generation.
Yep.
Great pro.
Big time.
But we have gotten to the end of our chat. Wait, Nemo got offered Swift, CEH, and Josh Palmer for Saquon Barkley, Chase Edmonds, and a 23 first.
Wow. I guess Swift is Swift the most important asset in this trade long term?
He's a year younger than Barkley.
Oh man.
Would you rather have CEH or Edmonds?
In Dynasty? For this year, Edmonds.
For Dynasty, I think it's CEH. For Dynasty, would you rather have Josh Palmer at 23 first? 23 first.
Depends on my needs. Am I stout at running back? Then give me Palmer. Or if I need a quarterback or a running back, I guess the first, sooner than later, then I guess the first round pick. But if I'm set at quarterback and running back, then I'd rather have Palmer. Palmer has separated himself, I think, from the rest of the guys not named Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
He absolutely has.
He's going to be a big-time part of that offense. He can play.
Man, this is really tough.
I think it's pretty fair. Does your team... I mean, yeah, it's the quintessential, does your team get better with this trade? Do you compete better this year with that package than you do with Barkley and Edmonds?
And that 23 first, is it projected late? Are you a contender and is it yours? Is it like these types of questions matter too? When you're not talking about a 24-25 first. If you're talking about a 23 first, you can have these discussions. Whereas with the later picks, it's all up in the air. You have Jones, Fields,
Carr at quarterback. It's not. I mean, it's okay.
The only thing for me is okay, Barkley and Swift. You can choose who you like more.
Yeah, that's
edge goes to Swift. CEH or Edmonds.
Edmonds this year. Clyde's a few years younger, but hasn't fired in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I like Josh Palmer a lot.
I love Josh Palmer.
A 23 first is a lot for him. I think his price is more in line even at this point with 2 seconds. Even earlier in the offseason, it was probably 1 second. I don't think it's risen to 23 first level. But it could. But it could. Do you believe in that? That is the question. Do you believe Josh Palmer is the heir apparent to Keenan Allen? Or do you think they're going to bring somebody else in once the time comes for Keenan Allen to not be a Charger anymore?
Yeah, and they'll draft somebody regardless. It's just a matter of who and when.
Right. It's tough. It really hinges on, to me, do you believe in Josh Palmer long term? If you don't,
then keep the Barkley side.
Right. If you do, then go in.
Yeah, if you're all in on Josh Palmer, then take the deal.
That's the hinge for me. 23 first, even if it is late, could end up being... It's probably not going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba, but it could be...
It could be
Kayshon Boutte. It could be Mario Addison. Could be Michael Mayer at tight end, who looks like the next tight end to come into the league high. Not Kyle Pitts high, but
to just improve the quarterback situation.
Yeah, it could be Will Levis or whichever one isn't one of the top 2 guys drafted. But to me, it hinges on do you trust in Josh Palmer long term?
Yeah, if you believe in Palmer, then take the deal.
As a Chargers fan, you believe Palmer will become Mike Williams and Mike Williams will become Keenan Allen?
Maybe because Edmonds, I would say for this year is, I would say significant, I think it's not close as far as who I'd rather have between Edmonds and CEH. See if you can talk it down to like a 23 second or even 23 seconds. See if you can talk it down
or
to that.
A future first that isn't 23. Like if it was 24, a little bit more palatable for me. If it was a couple of 23 picks in the second round or a 23 and 24 second, absolutely I'd be doing that. But the 23 first is just a little bit rich for me with Palmer right now because, yes, he has locked down the number 3 role on that offense. The number 3 role is very different than the number 2, and there are 2 incumbents that are not going to get knocked off their spot within the next 2 seasons. Do I like Josh Palmer? Yes. Do you have the patience to wait around, and do you expect him to be a Gabe Davis-like play? That's the question. And we'll go back up to Scott's question in a sec, but to continue to talk about this here, Rojo says he's never been a Mike Williams guy, seems more of a best ball player. If you start him, he sucks. If you bench him, he goes for 30.
I mean, yeah, if he...
Yeah, I mean...
He's a little inconsistent, but he's got as good of a chance to consistently fire now, or, just in general, with a guy like Justin Herbert throwing him the ball. I mean, he's certainly talented. They paid him. They gave him a contract extension. He's going to be a big part of the offense. I'm willing to draft him in redraft if in the 4th round.
Yeah, no, Mike Williams smashed me this year. I have no issues drafting Mike Williams this year. Do I think that Josh Palmer will be the Mike Williams of the future and Mike Williams will turn into Keenan Allen? No, because Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are not similar players. But Josh Palmer could be Keenan Allen light in the future. I don't think he will ever be Mike Williams. That's just not how he plays. But he is a savvy route runner who's learning to be a better route runner from one of the best route runners of the past 20 years in Keenan Allen. So if you think that Josh Palmer in 2 seasons can be the heir apparent to Keenan Allen, then maybe he's worth the first in 23. We just can't say that definitively right now. So it's up to you. And before we move on any further here, Scott's question here. I was going to offer Lamar, Sutton, and Edmonds for Jonathan Taylor and Tolbert. Redraft 12-man PPR. Thoughts? Would really improve my running back situation. Plus, I have Thielen for Sutton.
Who's your quarterback?
Herbert, right?
Oh, right. Then yes. Because then you're giving up Lamar, you're giving up a big package, but let's just call it with keeping in mind you have Herbert. Say you're trading Lamar and Sutton for Taylor, and then Edmonds for Tolbert in one quarterback. I would knowing that I have Herbert, I would do that. And you could fire up Thielen. So your depth takes a hit, but at the expense of getting the best player in the deal. Sure. Yeah, I would do it. It hurts to give up Lamar, but when you have a guy of Herbert's caliber, you don't need 2 high-end quarter.
My question is, could you make it Lamar Jackson, Adam Thielen, Chase Edmonds? And then if that doesn't get it done, raise it up to Sutton instead of Thielen. If I'm shooting for the highest upside, I'd want to give up the least. I know Jonathan Taylor isn't going to come cheap, but people might be real high on Lamar Jackson. People might be higher on Thielen. You never know until you ask. See if the lower offer will get it done before you're shipping out a potential wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And Sutton, I think, has that upside. But that would be the only suggestion there. I think that would be a solid deal. Would help your team a lot. And even if it's not Jonathan Taylor, like Lamar, Thielen, Edmonds, for any top 6 back.
Yeah.
And a wide receiver 3. Like, if you can't get her done for Jonathan Taylor, don't exhaust your options there. Continue.
Try Austin Eckler.
Try Joe Mixon. Yeah.
I mean, shit. If Taylor's part of the conversation, shoot for McCaffrey. If that package could potentially net you Jonathan Taylor, then you might as well go all the way and see
I think,
if you
honestly,
can get it from McCaffrey.
Honestly, if you moved it from Sutton to Thielen and then went to try to get CMC because of the injury risk, because a lot of people aren't as high on CMC as we are, that might even just get it done. You never know. So try that out for sure.
Yeah. But if that's what it takes and you can get Taylor ultimately, yeah, do it.
And last comment here. Theo, does Jarrett Patterson have any future in the NFL? Tough to say.
He's 22, but he's 4th on the depth chart. So there's a chance. I guess I wouldn't necessarily bank on it. He's
undrafted free agent, doesn't have any draft capital to his name. I don't think no.
It's not going to happen in Washington because now they have Robinson and Gibson who are 23 and 24. Jarrett Patterson's only a couple of years younger than Gibson, 1 year younger than Robinson. Put up 3.9 yards per carry last year on limited touches. I won't put a ton of stock into that just because the opportunity wasn't the opportunity wasn't there last year without Brian Robinson, and now there's Brian Robinson.
And I mean, I tend to have some issues with running backs that are 5'8". They have to have like some pass catching upside and be a little bit gadgety in that range. He's 5'6". Now his BMI is great because even at 5'6", he's 195 pounds. But the shorter you get, the more limited your ability is in the NFL. Yeah, he can sneak through some of these 6'5" guys just because he's so short, but it limits his catch radius and catching passes out of the backfield. Then he just can't stand up to NFL punishment when he's going up against 300-pound linemen, rushing it up the middle. Like, it's just, I like Jarrett Patterson. He came out of Buffalo. Got to give him some respect for being an undersized undrafted free agent to see significant playing time in the NFL. With it being the most replaceable position in the NFL right now, like, I could see him being a camp body by next year for teams.
On the bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we are at the end of the chat here, so thank y'all for chilling. Much appreciated. We will be back here tomorrow for the members only stream, and then on Thursday, Nick is gone, but I will be here. So opposite of last week where I wasn't here and Nick was holding it down. This week gonna be the opposite, but still absolutely come through on Thursday, and we'll chill, talk about the upcoming last week of preseason, and some maybe we'll mock draft, something like that. Keep it fun, keep it light. But if anybody has missed out on picking up the 2022 redraft draft kit, second link in our description, definitely go and get that. 30 plus pages of great content that Nick put together a few weeks ago. Updated it once already, so it is up to date. It's free.
I gotta get some more updates in there.
It's free. It's on our website. It's in the second link under the description of this video, this live stream, so check that out for sure. Also, if you have any interest in being a member, we offer a couple of different members tiers. Click on that members option under the video and just check out what they offer, or what we offer in that respect. You can ask anybody here with a badge next to their name, and they'll let you know that being a member is pretty fun. If you don't want to be a member, but you just want more access to us, to be more involved in the community, check out the Discord. It's absolutely free. So
yeah,
I think that's the third link in the description.
Yep.
So feel free to join the description. Join the description. Join the Discord. My bad. And yeah, man, ramping up to fantasy season, ramping up to the NFL season. Very much looking forward to streaming with you guys more than we already are. And I'm just looking forward to some regular season football. I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's close.
But thanks for chilling, y'all. It's been fun. Thanks for all the comments and questions in the chat.
Yeah, appreciate it, everybody.
Keeping it busy for us, keeping it interesting, having conversations amongst yourselves. Even sometimes it's fun to see. Bring your questions tomorrow. Bring your questions on Thursday. We'll be here. But have a great rest of your night, y'all.
Yeah. Have a good one, everybody.